This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2023 AFL Premiership season.
Marks out to the right, steps on goal, superb finish.
Turns, whacks it straight through the middle. Pulls the trigger on goal, and goes bang!
'Cause here it comes. AFL.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app. Look for the AFL button.
Something big is coming, I know.
It's a Saturday night blockbuster that feels like Christmas in July. Welcome to Adelaide Oval for one of the biggest games of the season as Port Adelaide and Collingwood seek to stake their claim as premiership favourite in a sold-out top-of-the-table clash. The Power have loaded up after the Blues snapped their 13-game win streak with Dixon, Rioli, McKenzie and Horne-Francis back into the side. But will it be enough to avenge the 71-point loss to the Magpies in round two that put their coach Ken Hinkley in the firing line? Collingwood, meanwhile, they aren't taking any chances either. They're welcoming back Brodie Myercheck and Darcy Cameron into the 22 for Taylor Adams' 200th game. Plenty at stake tonight as they look to close the door on the premiership conversation and essentially lock away the minor premiership in 2023. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you for the call. Premiership crow Rod Jamieson and three-time showdown medalist Josh Franco, your experts. Dylan Williams and Oleg Markov are the subs with no late changes. And Crossy, it feels like a really special night.
It will be, not only because of the ramifications of this match, but I think everybody thinks that this might be a portent of a grand final perhaps. But Collingwood's won their past 7 at the Adelaide Oval, but they haven't faced Port Adelaide here since 2017, which is just a measure really of how often Collingwood travels.
They don't have trouble on the run home either. They've got the remainder of their games are at the MCG or the Docklands, so it is their last road trip of the year. Our experts, Rod Jamieson, Josh Franco. Jamo, it is great to have you back in the box after your tropical getaway. How are you?
Aaron, thank you. Crossy, yes, good to be back. Humbly, yes, went to Thailand. 28 degrees overnight, 32 during the day. I went for a swim yesterday morning, stepped on the bathroom floor and thought I stood in a puddle of water. It was that cold, but 5.3 degrees on the way to swimming. So, look, it's nice to get away, but always good to come home.
You were supposed to switch off and relax, but you kept texting in every single time on the ABC Listen app. You were listening to every single game that we were calling.
Well, I was. I had a bit of downtime, so I was happy to just tune in where I could, and occasionally got to a pub and had a look at. There was a lot of football, and whether it was NRL, AFL, and then certainly Australia and Argentina in the rugby union there the other week. So,
speaking of the text line, 0437 774 774 if you do want to get in touch across the evening. Josh, good to see you again.
How are we?
Good, excited. How are you feeling?
Oh, a bit the same. It's interesting when you look at the aesthetics of this oval. As you said, it's a sellout crowd. It's a big crowd. A little bit of inclement weather about an hour ago, but the rain has stopped. There's no wind to speak of, so it's set up to be, well, hopefully an absolute magnificent contest.
So when we break it all down, we'll start with the home side, Port Adelaide. Incredible 13-game winning streak. A 50-point loss last week to Carlton, albeit 7 changes heading in. And a lot of us are wondering, how much do you look into that? Is there any legitimate concerns heading into this game after that result, or do they move on and bounce back immediately?
Well, Paul Keating said quite a few years ago, it's the recession we had to have. I reckon that's the loss that Port Adelaide had to have. I've been saying it. I reckon about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think they played Essendon, and the big goal from Dan Houston after the siren to get the 4 points. But I really do believe that Port Adelaide, and I know a lot of people don't subscribe to this because winning form is good form, but that's potentially that kick up the pants they needed. I don't think you read anything into that whatsoever, and I think we'll find out in the first 5 minutes tonight how they respond.
I think most clubs will have an anomaly throughout the year at some point. They did get beaten by 71 again against Collingwood. I didn't pick last week's result, but certainly Ken has swung the axe, and with that, the captain Tom Jonas is now out and back in the SANFL. But look, they've had a tremendous season, Port Adelaide. They've won 7 under 14 points this year. 5 of those under 1 goal. So they're in there for the fight for a long time.
So their 2 biggest losses in their past 37 matches have come this season. Last week against Carlton by 50, and against Collingwood in round 2, which was 71.
Correct.
So throw that into the mix for what it's worth.
That's fair, and that's a fair call, Crossy. But it's interesting in terms of the AFL competition. If you're not mentally switched on and geared to play this game, you can get stung. And Port Adelaide, they definitely got burnt last week.
And 36 points as we saw today. You know, Hawthorn, Richmond, it like 6, 7, 8 goals. It does not take much to turn around from quality sides.
You talk about not being switched on mentally either, and that was the case round 2. Port Adelaide rocked up at the MCG against Collingwood, and as Ollie Wine said during the week, they were completely shell-shocked in the opening term, and by the end of the game, minus 57 in contested possessions, minus 12 in clearances. Obviously, they lost by 71 points. Yeah. They rolled over.
Well, they had that big win against Brisbane in round 1, wasn't it? The build-up, the season, what it was all about for Port Adelaide. Brisbane were one of the contenders and still are, but they really took it to them and smashed them here, went away, and then in round 3, got done by Adelaide too. So all of a sudden, then there's talks around Ken Hinkley. Do we actually want to keep him? And then their own were eating themselves inside out. It was great to watch if you want, not a Port Adelaide supporter. Yeah. But look where they are now.
It makes tonight a real test to showcase how far they've come since those opening couple of weeks. And if it's a similar margin, then all of a sudden you can tell that Collingwood is leaps and bounds ahead of them in terms of what the finals race could be. For the Magpies, I mean, they're just rocking and rolling right now. Everything's coming together. Statistically, the best team in the comp for so many different reasons. But you look at their 22 tonight, they've omitted Ash Johnson, who kicked 3 goals last week. Frampton hit the scoreboard as well. Markov had 15 touches. And all 3 of them are out of the 22 because they just have so much talent to select from.
Well, the irony of that too, Aaron, is having sat down this afternoon and doing a few notes on the game and think, where can Port Adelaide win? How are Collingwood going to win? This is it, going through their 22, they don't have a weakling in any line. Like, you know, in terms of defensively, they've got... was it Howe, Moore, Murphy as their tools. Up 4, they've got Cox, Myercheck, McStay, Elliott's a gun. Yep. McCreary's sort of underrated. And then you go to their blue chip midfield. They are talented across the board.
Yeah. And then the metrics side by side for the season, there is nothing in it between these two sides. The only 2 that stood out for me was scores against, which just over 10 goals for Collingwood, and it's 13 goals for Port Adelaide. So it's, 3 goals differential between how they can contain the opposition. But the uncontested football is a long way ahead where Collingwood, where you give them that time, and maybe it's the expanse of the MCG where they play majority of their footy. They use all spades of the MCG. Now, that's the area where if they can have that control again tonight, but you would think Port Adelaide should be able to contain that on their home ground.
Absolutely, Jam. And I think if you looked at Collingwood, particularly early in the year, there was a lot of positive talk around their ball movement. But I think what people lost sight of the fact is how good they are at pressuring opposition. And you mentioned probably the 2 numbers that are a little concerning if you're a Port Adelaide supporter are the contested possession differential. The Pies are currently ranked 4th in the competition, Port Adelaide 11th. But the big one is the pressure factor differential. At the moment, the Pies are 1st, Port Adelaide are 8th.
Yep.
So that was an area where Port Adelaide was really poor last week against Carlton. They've got to bring their absolute A game. And even looking further from Port Adelaide's perspective, for them to win, Connor Rosie and Zach Butters have to be absolutely on fire tonight.
I think the other one, just the grunt of Ollie Wines. I think for me, no one's really spoken about him all year. It's always been the younger players coming through and what load they've been able to carry.
He may need to stand up tonight as well with Zach Butters coming in with a hip injury as well. Sellout crowd, barely an empty seat in the house, mainly in the middle tier on the outer side, but otherwise full Adelaide Oval. Let's check in downstairs with our boundary rider tonight, Josh Money. Josh, what's it like down there?
Thank you, Aaron. It's very, very loud indeed. The conditions not too bad. Certainly a long way from Jamo's Thailand getaway, but it is certainly better than it has been throughout the afternoon. It's been a wet afternoon in Adelaide, but the rain is just drizzling at the moment. The ground itself, though, is very wet, so expect a very slippery start to this game. It is a sellout. But the weather doesn't seem to have kept many away, as you said, pretty full. The hill is absolutely packed, and this place is buzzing at the moment. Let's have a look at the bench. Lots of firepower for both teams. Collingwood star Jordan De Goey has battled illness all week, but he plays tonight. He starts on the bench alongside Jack Crisp, Mason Cox and Bobby Hill. Oleg Markov is the sub. Both Ollie Wines and Connor Rosie start on the bench for the Power. So does Miles Bergman and Francis Evans. And after the first loss of his 14-game career, Dylan Williams is still involved tonight. He's the Power's sub.
The other game over at Perth Stadium, Fremantle and Sydney. Day 4 of the Ashes unfortunately hasn't started due to rain in England, and Haiti is available to you on the ABC Listen app as part of the Women's World Cup. Here at the Adelaide Oval, though, it's first versus second. To be the best, you've got to beat the best. Blockbuster Saturday night clash to kick things off. Here's Neil Cross.
Both teams with a black and white history, and they've been bickering about that since Port entered the competition. Out of the middle, Butters was held, umpire called play on, and now he's got over the too high, free kick decision, and that's immediately going to go to Butters. So he did spot it. I didn't think he did. Now, quickly off to Houston. He's going to clear it long into half forward for Port Adelaide. They'll go forward. Off the hands of the big pack towards the boundary line. Just try a soccer from Finlayson, didn't work. And then the hand pass went back in the direction of Boak, but it was knocked over the line by Mitchell. Throw in.
Gee, the Zach Butters one was a late call, wasn't it? 2 He threw the head back, tackled by Taylor Adams, but...
Worth noting, Willem Drew has gone straight to Nick Dacos as well. Looks like a hard tag as well. He's getting stuck right into him off this boundary throw-in.
Tom Mitchell, Jason Horne-Francis.
Dixon front position, was held out of it by Cameron, stuck a boot out, missed the footy. Adams fumbled, but Pendlebury didn't. Got the clearance for Collingwood up the western wing. Off the hands of McStay. Houston got a boot to ball about 5 metres in the path of Lycett. Did enough to get it to Drew. His kick smothered by Mitchell. He's coming back to Port Adelaide. Anyway, Butters tumbles one into the 50, about 45 out. Dixon handed it off. Tackle laid on Boak. Trickles into the right forward pocket, but McEntee can't get there in time. Boundary throw in, 15 out.
It was interesting. Nick Dacos actually started back on Willie Rioli, but it looks like he's now gone on ball. And as you said, Drew has gone to him to try to shut his influence out of the game.
So the ball comes back into play. Dixon gets to the front. Cameron comes over the top. Ball comes to the ground. Trying to charge through was Pal Pepper. In a tackle, got a hand pass out. Nick Dacos intercepted. He was tackled as well. Got it away. Quaynor was taken down in a tackle. And Collingwood's forced it to the top of their defensive 50. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, has restricted them from getting away on the break.
The power kicking to the southern end, the right of your radio dial. One down by Cameron to side bottom. Errant kick for Collingwood to hit and hope. Aliir was sitting back to intercept. On the 45, pops it short. Butters presenting. Looks pretty agile, considering he comes in with that hip knock.
He works hard.
Popped it short to Drew. Hands it wide. Big kick from the cannon. McKenzie loads up into the left forward pocket. Marshall launches. Couldn't bring it down. Spills to Pal Pepper. Gathers. Kicks it across the face. And out on the full. Free kick Collingwood left back pocket. No score so far in the opening couple of minutes on Grandstand AFL.
Well, really from the centre bounce, first one, it's all been in Port Adelaide's half. 3 inside 50s at the moment. And the 2 rush kicks, I think one by Pendlebury, the other by Sidebottom, would just get it out of the area. But Port have defended.
Sidebottom, or rather Pendlebury, goes down the sideline and then kicks it long off hands. Houston just handballed in hope forward. And then Sidebottom comes in as Cameron was taken in a tackle and released it. Sidebottom wide with his kick. Oh, the umpire, the boundary umpire,
had the whistle in his mouth.
Had the whistle in his mouth, was going to play out on the full, but instead it's a mark for McStay, the former Brisbane player. Down the line he goes. Aliir comes over the top, knocks it over the boundary line. This time the boundary umpire decides to blow the whistle. Let's throw it in at left half forward for Collingwood. They've barely gone forward thus far and travelled through 3 minutes of this contest.
Toss back into play. Entangled Cameron and Lycett. Spills down to Houston, caught in the tackle, got a handball away from McCreary. Horne-Francis heads up towards the benches, bouncing through centre wing. Moore did enough to escort it over the boundary line against Dixon. Over at Perth Stadium, Fremantle with the early lead. 1-1-7, Sydney yet to score.
Charlie's already hobbling, isn't he, too? Just in that contest, he's got his right knee heavily strapped, and I know it's been bothering for some time, but he is really restricted.
Yeah, just as he slid across the line on his knees, that was a move too far. Off the ruck contest, Butters just wobbles a kick towards half forward. Pal Pepper comes in, tries to shake the attention of Sidebottom, who clings on and forces a ball up right half forward for the Power on this broadcast side of the ground. No score through the first 4.5 minutes off the contest. Hand pass out from Adams to Sidebottom. Down forward they go. Aliir at the back of the pack. He just towed the ball forward, picked up by Houston. Down the ground he goes. Off hand straight to Boak. Left foot towards half forward. Moore in position. Dixon spoils him. Pal Pepper comes through. Pushes off Moore. Bang goes to goal outside of the right boot. What a finish! Power had the first of this game, and it was power-packed from Sam Pal Pepper. They lead by that goal, Port Adelaide, after 5 minutes.
Well, it's interesting, even that marking contest, and Charlie Dixon, you talked about hobbling at the moment. He's not looking 100% fit. Massive job for him tonight. He's got Well, Moore's got the job on him. Moore's a hugely influential player down back for Collingwood. Brought the ball to ground, and just looking at the replay, Powell Pepper's ability is strength through the core. And just the old-fashioned don't argue in the chest of Darcy Moore to fend off and kick a miraculous goal. Great start for Port Adelaide.
And Murphy, so he did it twice in that passage of play. He's got around Murphy the first one. He's given Darcy the old heave-ho and then given the banana to kick Port Adelaide's first.
The voices of Josh Franco, Rod Jamieson in the middle. Lycett just got a fist to it, carried about a metre to go. He breaks away into the 50 for Collingwood scoreboard pocket. Held out of it. McStay by Aaliyah. Spills to the back. Elliott, hot handball, went through Mitchell. McStay was behind him though. Turns, snaps, excellent finish. McStay from 40. It wasn't supposed to be his footy, but he capitalised and levelled the scores. One straight 6 apiece. 6 minutes into the opening term on Grandstand AFL.
And one of the luxuries that Collingwood have is they have so many players that can go through the midfield. And on that occasion, Jordan Goey, just his burst of speed through the middle of the ground from the centre bounce, outstanding entry inside forward 50, and then McStay good enough to finish with a left foot snap.
I think Collingwood are the best centre clearance team in the competition and certainly scoring from, but there's not a great deal difference between Port Adelaide and Collingwood, whether it's just clearances around the ground and centre clearances. And Jamie Ellett, his form in the last 3 or 4 weeks is insane.
So a goal apiece through the first 6 minutes. Ball in the middle of the game. Cameron takes it down, has a fresh air when the ball hits the ground. It's come to Butters. Just scrubs a kick towards the wing on this side of the centre square. The broadcast side, Drew goes in there. Dersma got a foot to the ball. Cameron picked it up for Collingwood. Off to Degoe, and then Quaynor at half-back. Flares wide. And Lipinski takes it out there on the eastern side. I think it's the first time the ball's ventured out that side.
Well, there's not many easy possessions, is there? Everything's rush kick from scramble.
Lipinski up to right half forward. His target is McStay, outnumbered. Coming across, Houston got a hand to it, and Lockie Jones is happy to shepherd the ball over the boundary line in front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand. On the text line, Ken in Port Augusta says, "Go you Pies, come home with a big win." And the last time they were here, they chased down your Crows, Jamo. So never say never when it comes to a margin at the Adelaide Oval.
Well, Crossy highlighted they won their last 7 games here at Adelaide Oval, and 4 of those have been under a goal.
Toss back in. It cleared both ruckmen. Pendlebury was held at the back by Butters and breaks away, taking the advantage. Hands it off to Nick Dacos. Awkward kink. He shakes it towards the goal line. A tumbling effort. Myercheck was waiting. The check side from the tight angle couldn't finish. Literally on the right-hand behind post, trying to squeeze it through. A minor score for Collingwood, but it gives them the lead. 1-1-7. Port 1 straight 6. 8 minutes in.
Butters has started the game well. Already 5 disposals. Pendlebury for the Pies, the 4 touches.
So good in heavy traffic, Scott Pendlebury, isn't he?
So Farrell takes the kick in. Long out to the eastern side. It came off Moore, a fancy, straight down to Dixon, and then the tackle, and then the ball up, and there's off the ball going on, and so it'll be a free kick. Lycett looked like he was pinched, and it'll go to Cameron. So Cameron with the free kick for Collingwood. Midway between half forward, centre wing on the eastern side. Waits, looks inboard, goes short. Didn't gain anything by that. Went a little bit wider with the kick to Degoe. So he pulls up. Degoe in turn goes short, looking for Josh Dacos. That other Dacos goes off his left foot inside 50. Big pack. Jones knocks it down and then soccers up the ground for Port. Out in the direction of Wines, who half volleyed it well. Gave it to Rosie out towards centre wing. Dixon and Moore go at it again. They come away with the ball. Port Adelaide through Powell Pepper. 2 soccers and it's inside 50. It's over the line, 30 around from the goal face, and the umpires say, fair enough, throw it in. Left forward pocket for Port Adelaide.
Just another good 1v1 contest win there from Dixon, wasn't it? Once again, Darcy Moore, who's a star of the competition, just brought it to ground, and Powell Pepper, good follow-up.
So Dixon and Cameron to do battle as it's tossed back in, 25 out. Dixon in front, tapped it down straight to Nick Dacos. Rare fumble, but he gets a second go. Hands it to side bottom. He turns off a step out of the 50 with the kick. Bergman was underneath it and should have claimed it. Spilt down to Degoe. He's coughed it up. Wines now to Rosie. Back to his skipper for the night. Gives it back to Rosie. Shrugs the tackle. Runs to 35. Connor Rosie! Is there anything this man can't do? Rosie puts the power up with the second lead change of the night. 2 straight 12, Collingwood 1-1-7. 10 minutes into the opening term on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Well, you mentioned just a few moments ago, everything seems to be rushed, almost from both sides. That quick kick, that quick hack out of stoppage. There's not a lot of composure with the ball in hand at the moment, and which is indicative of the pressure that both teams are applying. But the quick kick from the D50 stoppage for Collingwood, really well set up behind the ball, Port Adelaide. And we mentioned pre-game that Rosie and Butters need to have big games if Port Adelaide are to get the 4 points tonight, and both have started well. And again, on that occasion, Rosie, just a terrific finish for a young up-and-coming superstar.
Well, Scott Pendlebury is the one that we always talk about. Slow the game down, heavy traffic. He just thinks his way through. Connor Rosie does the same, but he's just got this incredible speed.
Cox in the middle, knocks it down. Horne-Francis takes it away for Port Adelaide. Slipped as he did it. Got it forward, though, and then it's slapped on by Finlayson and by Rioli for Port Adelaide. They're inside 50. Rosie to ground, got up. Interesting hand pass. Quaynor took it, was thrown away by Dixon. Ball on the ground now. Top of the 50 for Port Adelaide, attacking that River Torrens end of the ground. Came out to De Goey, handballed it forward. Justin Hope, picked up by Port Adelaide, but they can't get a clean possession. Myercheck eventually comes through and gives it to Nick Dacos off half-back. Good disposal to half-forward. But just the slap away that came before Elliott was able to take the mark. Well done by McKenzie, who then slid into the fence just down from where our boundary rider is, Josh Money.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about, Crossy. It is noticeably so slippery out there. You saw Horne-Francis from that centre bounce, and then McKenzie must have slid about 5 metres from the boundary all the way to the fence, so really tough conditions.
Port Adelaide by 5. Toss back in. Finlayson disposed of Cox in the ruck. Went to the back. Lipinski couldn't control the footy. Horne-Francis with a diving handball. Put it in the path of Evans. He left it behind. Gathered by Noble for the Magpies. Side bottom now retreats to Moore. Left half back broadcast wing. His kick a little too heavy for Noble. Over his head. Over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play. Much to the despair of the Power fans in attendance.
Gee, they're optimistic, aren't they? He missed a kick, but it was in no way with the intention of putting it over the boundary line. So in we come, play on. And Big Cox goes for it, knocks it forward for Collingwood. Bergman across there for Port Adelaide, keeps it in with a hand pass, but it rolls eventually over near the interchange gates for another throw in. And again, Bergman over the line. And near to a couple of trainers, gets up. McCreery, his opponent who sent him over the line, was very magnanimous and making sure he was okay. Ball comes back in again. Cox goes to ground, was thrown aside. Interesting. Ball on the ground, still slapped around, picked up by side bottom, taken in a tackle, and the umpire says, give it to me.
Crossy, you talk about a hard tag. Nick Dacos came off. Guess who followed him? Drew.
He's sitting on the bench with him, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, contested in the tackling. 14 tackles to 5 in favour of Collingwood.
Cox won it down to Horne-Francis for the Power. Mitchell's all over him. We'll get another ball up, true centre wing on the broadcast side.
What he saw in Francis then just threw his head back again in that tackle. He just can't keep acting for it. Get on with the footy.
Again, the rucks just can't get clear of each other. More of a physical contest. Ball hits the deck. Farrell came in, couldn't control it. Lipinski's trying to wrench it out, but he's wrapped up in another tackle. Another ball up to come. Over at Perth Stadium, 1 point game. Fremantle lead 1-1-7 to the Swans 1 straight 6. You can hear that on the ABC Listen app. Cox with the fist, straight to De Goey. Managed to get a handball out. Not sure how in the tackle. Trickled in the path of Mitchell. He became the tackler on Farrell. McCreery dives in as well. He's wrapped up by Horne-Francis. Collingwood just keep forcing it forward. Side bottom finally gets it out. Finds Lipinski at the attacking edge of the square. Here's Pendlebury. From 55 to the top of the goal square. His target's Myercheck, and Jones thrusts it with a massive fist out towards the arc. Josh Dacos sitting back, but he loses it against Willie Rioli. And a booming kick could see the Power on the attack here.
Ball comes off the hands of Marshall, forward, picked up by Christ. Long hand pass out to the wing to side bottom, inside 50 off his left foot. And he spears the pass to Elliott, who leads up and marks it 45 out.
And one player, no doubt, would already be starting to cause a few headaches for the Port Adelaide coaching staff is side bottom. Already 9 disposals. Only played 8 minutes of this first term, having a huge influence on the game. And again, seen by that inside 50 in that beautiful connect with Elliott.
Uncontested. Collingwood are 5 ahead already in the early part of this first quarter.
Only 10 possessions, but kicked 4 goals. against Fremantle last week. Comes in Elliott, and this kick is just to the left for the minor score. Collingwood just creeping a little bit closer. 1-2-8, trailing Port Adelaide 2 goals straight. 12 points, 15 into this first quarter.
Loves playing at the Adelaide Oval. Jamie Elliott, 15 goals in 8 games. Port Adelaide exit to the western side. Willie Rioli takes it on his chest. Right half back. Looks into the centre square. He spots Butters in space. Hits him. Hands it off Farrell. Through the centre circle. Launches it into the 50 to a 2-on-2. Brought to ground. Murphy did very well. And a great kick as well off a step. Hits side bottom at the defensive edge of the square. Disposal number 10 coming up in the opening 15 minutes. Dangerous ball, though, towards the centre circle. Port Adelaide had numbers. Horne-Francis outmarks to Goey. And now they're on the counter.
Goes short to Bergman. And Bergman inside 50, looking for Dixon. It rolls straight through him. Out the back was Rosie. Picks it up in the goal square. And there's the goal. So Rosie with his second with just the clean hands on a ball that had slipped through a couple of players. He picked it up. Noble tried to pull him down with no success, and he kicks the goal. 3 straight 18 for Port Adelaide. Collingwood 1-2-8, and we've travelled through 16 minutes in the opening quarter. Grandstand AFL, your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Well, Jamo, we know both Port Adelaide and Collingwood like to play that high-risk footy through the middle of the ground, and we saw on that occasion it's that risk v reward, the kick back into the middle. If you don't hit that target and you turn it over, on that occasion Collingwood did. Horne-Francis was superb in reading the cues and picking it off and then getting him on the counter-attack. Just outstanding play there from Port Adelaide. And I'd actually like to see the replay again, because it almost looked like Dixon let the ball go. Were you going to say that?
I was going to say exactly the same. It was almost as if he went to pick it up and saw Rosie run past him in the space and just...
Outstanding play.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide by 10. In the middle, Lycett wins it down looking for Drew. Opposed to Pendlebury at the moment. Horne-Francis put his head over the footy, bowled over it. Pendlebury soccers it forward to Hill. Bursting out of the attacking 50. He handed it to Goey, who fumbled in the wet. Pendlebury makes amends though, mops it up. Got it to Crisp, who gave it away to Burton. Breaks through the logo on the outer wing. Drilled the ball to Dixon. Bounced off him. Gathered on the bounce. Trying to dart and weave around more. He centres his kick. Crisp gets in front of Horne-Francis. Brings it to ground. Handball came out to side bottom now. Bit of time to think about how they exit. He did very well to the outer side. Spots McStay, slides in low to ground, pops up immediately. Down towards right half forward. Adams his target. Aaliyah got there first. Spoiled it away. Butters under pressure has turned it over though. Cox gives it back. McStay's kick smothered by Houston. Messy footy on the outer side. Butters slides in, trying to win the footy for the Power, but he's wrapped up by a couple of tackles. Ball up to come. 55 out from Collingwood's attacking 50. They trail by 10 points.
I know there's been errors, but what a game of footy already.
Yeah,
how the intensity and the pressure around the ball is unbelievable.
Still side bottom, 11 disposals.
Mitchell just handballed the ball forward in hope for Collingwood. It's inside 50. It's out again now. Powell Pepper took it outside of the boot towards centre wing. Marshall came. Quaynor read it off the pack. And then Cameron was just a little too severe with his hand pass. Chris picked it up. Good dodge. Got around Dixon. Look away hand pass. Pendlebury on the logo. And centre wing tried to show the ball. Drew got him. Turned it over. And now Willie Rioli the other way for Port Adelaide. Almost chewing off more than he should was Lycett, but Port Adelaide retain control.
Handball chain on the outer side. Horne-Francis to Dixon. Awful grubber kick through centre wing. Only found Crisp. The turnover for Collingwood. Hands it to Quaynor. Up to right half forward. Burton got rid of Hill with ease and labelled Aaliyah to take the intercept mark.
I can't believe all 4 umpires missed that.
Well, Aaliyah looked like he was surprised.
he wanted to give it back.
He did.
Aaliyah gave it to Horne-Francis. Now Marshall alone. True centre wing in front of the Max Bashir stand. Loads up with a penetrating kick into the left forward pocket. It didn't favour Powell Pepper at all. Howe almost on the lead. Got there a good 10 metres ahead of him and takes the intercept mark for the Magpies in the right back pocket.
Just had to be better with that inside 50, didn't he? Didn't give Powell Pepper a chance at all.
Howe keeps it on the eastern side. And Cox forced under the ball. Burton take the mark for Port Adelaide on the logo. Looks inboard. 45-degree angle. Dangerous but effective. Drew sliding into a bit of room. Turns inside now. Goes long towards the top of the goal square and out of position Quaynor took the mark easily. Out of position there in front was Evans for Port Adelaide. So top of the goal square. Quaynor comes onto this broadcast side. Long he goes. Bergman got the ball to ground. Port Adelaide, well, through a great tackle by McCreery. It went to Houston. I thought he was going to break the tackle, but McCreery said no way, held him up, ball up.
In 20 one-on-one contests, Isaac Quaynor has not been beaten this year.
9th for intercepts as well. Off the ruck contest, Pendlebury curves it around the body, up through centre wing on the broadcast side. Off a couple of hands, McEntee slides in. De Goey did catch him high, but purely accidental. Ball up to come just inside Collingwood's attacking half.
So his opponent has not taken a mark on him, and he's taken 9 himself, as he's done again just then, deep in the defence.
Lycett won it down, bounced off a couple of bodies before it got to Lipinski. Now De Goey, then Nick Dacos. Outside of the boot, he tried to centre it. Lockie Jones read it best. Takes it at the defensive edge, and Port Adelaide want to go. Butters on the 45. Now Horne-Francis can turn. He spots Willie Rioli up at half forward. The kick a little shallow. Back with the flight, Maynard got a fist, but it ricocheted straight to Rioli. His kick wasn't great to Dixon. Hit him on his toes, bit too low to ground for the big man. Nick Dacos gathers, gets it to Cameron for Collingwood. Now out wide to Lipinski at left half back. Hands it off. Maynard busted off the kick, just banged over, but got it towards Adams in game 200. He wants to go. Spots a target down the line. Cox too far out to score, so he hands it off to McCreery, who races to 40, curls it on the right. Magnificent! Welcome home, Bo McCreery. The Panthers product strikes, and it's a 4-point game once again. Port Adelaide lead 3 straight 18. Collingwood 2-14. Time on in the opening term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, we know Braden Maynard likes to lead with his chin too, and it was Dan Houston that gave a hip and shoulder in when he disposed of the footy. They went toe-to-toe back here, and then the football's gone forward, and you've called it out with McCreery ended up doing that. He went back to Houston. He went to ground, looked like he might have hurt his shoulder, and put his head down and walked off as all his teammates got around Braden Maynard.
And just that inside 50 from Willie Rioli just didn't hit the target. It was at the feet of Dixon, went through his legs, and then Collingwood able to counter-attack off the back of that turnover.
So back in the middle, Port Adelaide haven't missed one yet. They led by 4 points. Speaking of not missing, Dacos, Nick, has been taken down in a tackle by Drew. That last contest that led to the goal, Dacos was able to slip Drew by just going to the other side of the pack as Drew tried to follow the ball through. So off the next ruck contest, I don't know how that ball came out of there, but it came out Port Adelaide's way towards the boundary line and eventually over. It was Josh Dacos making the tackle.
13 inside 50s crossing to Port Adelaide, and they've only got the 3 goals. Collingwood have only been in 7 times and got 2, so efficient when they do and dangerous.
4-point game. Port Adelaide's way, toss back in. Lycett got a hand straight to Houston. Quick kick through the pack, a low one that tumbles towards the arc. Over and deliberate. Free kick to Collingwood. Josh Dacos doesn't waste any time. Over the top to McCreery.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
Out of stoppage, tough call.
Slippery ball.
Yep.
McCreery points long and then loads up with a high ball to half forward. Cameron's presenting. Nudged out of it in the air.
Clean.
Spilled down front square to Nick Dacos. He is superb. Handed it to Pendlebury. Then Quaynor out wide. Spots Lipinski just behind right half forward. He'll centre his kick very wide of Adams. It was poor. And Butters can swarm. Hands it off to Bergman. Port Adelaide on the counter. Speaking of poor delivery, straight to the chest of Nathan Murphy, who gives it off to Pendlebury and now inside to Maynard. Collingwood looking for an entry. He'll hand it off. Crisp. Long to the top of the goal square. Port Adelaide have numbers, and Lycett with a double fist will knock it through for a minor score. Collingwood 2-3-15. Port Adelaide 3 straight 18. 24 minutes into the opening term over at Perth Stadium. Sydney's gone on an absolute tear and now lead by 24 points over Fremantle heading into quarter time.
Did pick that.
And skills and hitting targets at an absolute premium in this game so far. You almost notice every time they get the footy and they miss a target, both teams, opposition, are counter-attacking off that turnover.
Well, that kick by Lipinski was at Taylor Adams. That had hit him. Collingwood would have been having a shot on goal, and then there were 4 Port Adelaide players around him to mop up.
Burton brought the ball in, played on from fullback onto this broadcast side. Moore with the intercept. He's going to send it back long for Collingwood. He's just going to dump it 25 from goal. Big pack, thumped off it, comes to ground. Myercheck picked it up, claimed in a tackle. Lysett picked it up, gave the hand pass away to Burton, cleared the area. Dixon just tried to knock it on. It's gone over the back. Maynard overruns it, and it's picked up and inside forward 50 goes Port Adelaide through Evans. Quaynor came across at the last moment, knocked it away from Rioli. Picked up by Noble, and they go out the other side, Collingwood, and they find Lipinski at half back.
Make that 22 contest now. Outstanding effort, Isaac Quaynor, to get back.
Collingwood switch across defensive 50. Crisp looking for an option on the broadcast wing. Not a lot, so he'll head towards the square. Spots his skipper. Moore has it. Josh Dacos alone on the 45, close to the boundary line. Kick was a little wide, made him earn it. He'll hand it off to Tom Mitchell on return to the 22 after the sub last week. He'll kick up towards the arc. Houston floated across, brought it to ground. Adams slaps it in the direction of Pendlebury. He couldn't gather. Rosie trying to force it, put Adelaide's way. Butters slides in, threw his body on the line, won the footy and got it to Wines. Here they come. Dersma tried to take two bounces, and in the wet it didn't come back to him. And off his boot it goes over the boundary line. It'll be a free kick to Collingwood. He's made a meal of that as they broke through the broadcast wing.
Well, there's probably another example too. We saw Fraser Evans go inside forward 50. The kick wasn't good enough to Rioli. He had time and space, and Quaynor was outstanding in cutting it off, and again on that occasion Dersma turning it over.
Crisp down the line with a kick. Umpires spotted a free kick. It's play on advantage. Maynard picked it up near the boundary line. Two bounces now to half forward.
Great
inside
kick.
Half forward. Beautiful. Found Elliott on the chest. On the lead, 40 out. But he is in the pocket.
Somehow Port Adelaide have got to shut down the uncontested football of Collingwood right at this minute. 60-39 in the first quarter.
I reckon a fair bit of that is off the back of turnover as well.
Yeah.
So they want to play quick. They're turning the footy over. Then they're getting caught on the turnover with those uncontested possessions.
So Elliott ducks inside, hooks his kick slightly, and it just fades back beautifully for the goal. So Collingwood get back in front late in the opening quarter. It's Collingwood 3-3-21, Port Adelaide 3 goals straight, 18. What a contest we're seeing. It was much anticipated, but it's delivering.
And going back to those uncontested possessions of Collingwood, as we said, in the scramble, it's difficult at times to shut it down if you don't have the speed to get enclosed and stick those tackles. But as we said, some of Port Adelaide's disposal going, particularly inside their forward 50, have been quite erratic. It's caused the turnover, and then they're left hung out to dry because they can't get set up defensively behind the ball quickly enough and shut down those outlets, allowing Collingwood to get those uncontested possessions.
Centre clearance is 3-2 in favour of Port, but it's the stoppage around the ground, 9-4 in favour of Collingwood.
Yep.
Pies by 3, tossed up in the middle. Cameron won it down and gets his own footy as well, but gave it away. Drew cut across Nick Dacos, got the intercept for the power, gave it to Butters, now Boak. Drew's directing traffic and tells him to send it into the pocket. Target is Marshall, crunched by Murphy. Trickles towards the boundary line, and Nick Dacos is happy to see it over as he slaps it deliberately over the boundary line, and the umpire wasn't having it. Charging in, Robert Finlay gives the free kick to the power. 40 out. Drew dinks it over the top, and Marshall marks uncontested. 30 out, tight angle to the left.
Tell you what, that was a good decision by the umpire. I mean, we're, 200 metres away from that bit of play, and you can see it was a deliberate slap out of bounds. Well picked up by the umpire.
Well, it was actually just a bit of a brain fake, wasn't it? Because all he had to do was take the ball, and he had his opponent right on him. He just would have ran over the boundary line. It would have been a throw-in.
Well, he was sulking, and then that's how the kick came over the top, because he was talking to the umpire about why it wasn't a free kick.
It'll leave Fly frustrated in the Collingwood coach's box. Late in the first term, Marshall comes in and brings the power back into the lead. He strikes true from 35. He's on the board. Port Adelaide 4 straight 24. Collingwood 3-3-21 as we approach the 30-minute mark of the opening term on Grandstand AFL.
And just on the Dacos-Drew matchup, Nick Dacos, he's already had 6 disposals, so he is getting a fair bit of the footy. He's running at only 67% disposal efficiency. Yet Drew, as we said, has got the tight tag on Dacos. When he comes off, he's coming off with him. He's also had 5 disposals, and he's had 80% disposal efficiency. So a good battle unfolding between those two in a key matchup.
So tight first quarter. Lots of pressure. as we expected. And Port Adelaide just holds the advantage. There have been 4 lead changes, and the scores have also been tied away once. Out of the middle, Adams for Collingwood, gets it, sends it along, straight towards goal. No player was able to get a hand on it, and then finally it's McKenzie goes towards the boundary line, and he accidentally on purpose fell over, took it over the boundary line.
Tell you what, the umpire was running. I thought he was going to signal deliberate then. Got away with one there, Port Adelaide.
So still enough time for a score here inside Collingwood's attacking 50. Their members out in droves at the northern end. Some of them were here an hour early in the torrential rain. Toss back in. Cameron wins it down through the bootlaces of Nick Dacos. At the back, Drew got a handball through traffic. Found Butters. A spiral exit. Bit of a floater that sits up nicely for Maynard. Takes it back with the flight. Too far out to score.
Judged it well.
Left half forward. Braden Maynard, one of 3 South Australians in the lineup tonight for the Pies. Poor kick, but it slipped through the hands of Houston, who was uncontested. Should have claimed it. Picked up by Adams. Gets it to McCreary. Catches the belly of the footy. It'll sit up at the top of the goal square. Myercheck amongst the pack. Didn't jump more than a couple of metres high and still managed to fall straight in his lap. Straight in front, 20 out.
Well, I reckon Houston, haven't seen the replay, but
you won't want to watch it.
No. I was just going to say, I don't think he'd like to watch the replay of that. He flinched, expected contact or thought contact was coming. It didn't. Dropped the mark. Turnover, shot on goal.
So a gift for Brodie Myercheck on return. And he cashes in. Collingwood are back in front. The 5th lead change of the night. The 3-point margin swings their way. 4-3-27 plays 4 straight 24. 32 minutes played in the opening term over at Perth Stadium. Quarter time there. Sydney lead Fremantle by 25.
And I think if it's not Zach Butters, it would be Dan Houston close to the best and fairest right at this very minute. Now, he's been involved in 2 incidents which have cost his team 2 goals in this first quarter. And Collingwood have only kicked 4, and they've got their way back into it. So he needs to think about where he's at and what he's doing. Win the football, use it well like he has done year to date.
And Dixon for Port Adelaide has been jettisoned into the ruck. Normally it's Finlayson who does the backup. Dixon now in the ruck against Darcy Cameron.
Myercheck now Collingwood's leading goal kicker this season with 33. Out of the middle, ball knocked into space. Dersma picked it up, flicked a hand pass out, found Drew, who gave it to Butters, but it'll come back for the high shot. And Dersma will take the free kick.
15 seconds remaining.
Dersma just sends it long and high, and going back there, Cameron, and off the ball, the umpire has spotted a free kick.
It was Pel Pepper.
Yeah, it was.
Threw him to the ground.
So free kick will go to Cameron. So the big ruckman backing up and knowing that time is closing in, he pointed that I'm just going to go long. He didn't have to. Siren for quarter time. Interesting, expected, fascinating. All these words come to mind. But at the bottom line is Collingwood 4-3-27 has a 3-point lead. Port Adelaide 4 straight 24.
The goal scorers at the first change for Collingwood, all individual. Elliott, McStay, McCreary and Myercheck for the Power. 2 to Rosie, singles to Marshall and Powell Pepper. First versus second on a Saturday night blockbuster that's living up to the hype. Great to have you with us on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
Protecting our planet.
Breaking down barriers.
Supporting new migrants and refugees.
Lending a helping hand.
These are some of the ways we became Australians of the Year.
The Australian of the Year awards are nominated by you.
So come on, reflect, respect,
and celebrate
Australians who are making a real difference.
Nominate them now at australianoftheyear.org.au.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
In the middle, Lycett just got a fist to it, carried about a metre to go. He breaks away into the 50 for Collingwood scoreboard pocket. Held out of it. McStay by Aaliyah. Spills to the back. Elliott, hot handball went through Mitchell. McStay was behind him though. Turns, snaps, excellent finish. Winds now to Rosie. Back to his skipper for the night. Gives it back to Rosie. Shrugs the tackle. Runs to 35. Connor Rosie. Is there anything this man can't do?
And Bergman Inside 50, looking for Dixon. It rolls straight through him. Out the back was Rosie. Picks it up in the goal square. And there's the goal.
I know there's been errors, but what a game of footy already. How the intensity and the pressure around the ball is unbelievable.
Towards Adams in game 200. He wants to go. Spots a target down the line. Cox too far out to score. So he hands it off to McCreary, who races to 40. Curls it on the right. Magnificent.
So Elliott ducks inside. Hooks his kick slightly, and and it just fades back beautifully for the goal. So Collingwood get back in front.
Late in the first term, Marshall comes in and brings the power back into the lead. So a gift for Brodie Myercheck on return. And he cashes in. Collingwood are back in front. The 5th lead change of the night.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
The Power and the Pies going blow for blow in the opening term. It is Collingwood with a 3-point margin, 3-point lead, I should say, at the first change. 4-3-27 plays 4 straight 24, still anyone's ball game in what is set to be one of the biggest games of the regular season as we turn towards finals. This could be certainly, if not a grand final preview, one of the bigger finals that we could see come September. The text line 0437 774 774 if you want to get in touch with us across the night. Kevin has done just that, says enjoying the call from a cold night in Myrtleford. And Jamo, I had a look at the weather app, 7 degrees in Myrtleford at the moment, so rug up, Kevin. And Fran, who's one of my favourite texters from Melbourne, she's always so lovely. She says, hi, the SA ABC team are back. Where have you been? Well, we have been here, but the last 3 weeks our game has been, unfortunately, the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday night. So we've been the off-Broadway call, but it's good to be back across the country on ABC Radio. And I've been off for a wedding as well, and you've been in Thailand, Jamo, so...
Yes. No, I've enjoyed the sun, but yes, you've had a good time in the last couple of weeks. And,
we'll carry on, Josh.
Good to have the team back together. Speaking of Josh Franco, Rod Jamieson, your experts tonight. Gents, what'd you make of the opening term?
It was a great contest, wasn't it? We saw right from the start the pressure was on, and we got nothing less than what we expected in terms of coming into this game, 1v2, and the heat was on. We talked about that first quarter where there was a lot of pressure on the ball in the scramble. They were hat-kicking it forward, but looking at some of the numbers, and they do support the fact that it's a pretty even contest. The tackle count +3 Collingwood's way. The contested possession, a big indicator of intent, particularly around the scramble and work rate. They're even in terms of numbers, and the inside 50 probably the area where Port Adelaide would be ruining some missed opportunities. They were +4. They were 16-12 inside 50s. They only scored 4 majors for that quarter. And as we said, some of their entries inside their forward 50 and some of their disposal, when there hasn't been a lot of pressure on the actual kicker, has potentially let them down, and then they've been caught on the turnover.
Well, I think you're right. Like, it's 73% disposal efficiency Collingwood, 64 to Port Adelaide. So, and then the uncontested, it is 18. It's 21 differential there in favour of Collingwood, that is. So, again, that's an area that Port Adelaide need to shut. They just cannot control it. And then I'm going to go back to Dan Houston, drops the mark. Braden Maynard is involved in both entries back in. Sam Pelpepper throws him to the ground. There's 3 frees that Port Adelaide have given away or not, or allowed the football to get over the back, as Dan Houston did, which in the end cost them a goal. 6-4, and here you are, inside 50s, really differential. Port Adelaide haven't got what they should have out of that result. But yet Collingwood just keep persevering, and 3 points up at quarter time.
We talked a bit in the pre-game about the depth of Collingwood, how they have talent across all lines, to the point where they can make 3 changes tonight and omit 3 players who were in good form. Nick Dacos gets tagged, doesn't have a huge impact with his 6 touches. Scott Pendlebury stands up with 13 of his own and turns back time. So
does Still Sidebottom
as well with 10.
Yeah.
302 games and 370 plus as well. But, you know, Isaac Quaynor too, we just spoke about like what his contest, and he was able to do that and negate a goal from an absolute Monty for Port Adelaide too. Darcy Moore's been great. So that's going to be an interesting contest as the night unfolds. They go to Charlie. Does he just stay with him or just come off a little bit? He knows he can use his pace. He can run and get away from him. Aliir is dangerous up the other end also.
So and we also spoke about the turnover game. If Port Adelaide, both Collingwood and also Port Adelaide, they just got to minimise those turnovers. There's going to be, because it's just the nature of the contest and the pressure that's applied from both teams. But minimise the turnovers, because if you don't, you're going to get hurt.
Collingwood by 3, the Swans by 25 at Perth Stadium. Tossed up in the middle. Lysett wins it down against Cameron. Nick Dacos may have been held by Drew. Sticks a boot out and volleys it to the outer side. Dersma and Josh Dacos, the opposing number 7s, battling for the footy. Josh wins out but hands it straight to Willie Rioli. Here's Rosie now into the 50 for the power northern end. Finlayson's caught behind. Moore dives across, spoils it to ground. Murphy's wrapped up in the Finlayson tackle. Ball up to come, 20 out, close to the right forward pocket.
Haven't minded Rioli's game so far. Not huge numbers, had the 5 disposals, but been quite influential in some of his touches.
Josh Dacos kept his foot, got around 3 Port Adelaide players because they all lost their footing.
Al Pepper trying to crash through the pack. Howe got it close to the boundary line, saw it over in the end. So in that scoreboard pocket, throw in. Port Adelaide just forcing it forward. A little bit of a quell and the excitement around the crowd. In comes the ball. Dixon goes to ground and it's knocked out successfully by Cameron, who's on his back. Nick Dacos didn't clear it properly. Picked up by Burton for Port Adelaide. Away to the right with the kick at goal. Minus score. And it's a 2-point game in favour of Collingwood. Minute gone.
Missed opportunity there for Port Adelaide. With Burton, that miss.
So Collingwood exit to left half back. Nick Dacos to his brother Josh. Just inside the defensive arc. The hill is absolutely packed. Don't think you'd be able to move much there. Down the line. Great intercept mark by Houston, who floats over the pack. Poor opening term. Fresh off a career high 41 touches, Jamo. Houston loads up. A rocket into the 50. At the back of the pack, Marshall could have claimed it in the end. Fisted away in the path of Boak. Gathers 45 out, turns, dinks it over the top. Marshall was running. He'd kicked it in the wrong direction of his path. Maynard cuts it off and Collingwood rebound out of half back. Noble running. Down the line he goes. McStay, good grab. Away from Aaliyah, just inside the boundary line near the interchange gates. Arcs around on the left foot. Goes inside half forward looking for Elliott. Floating across was Bergman with the intercept mark for Port Adelaide.
He's done that all year, hasn't he, too? Bergman. McStay, he's only played, what is it, this is his 7th game, but great acquisition from Brisbane.
Bergman, look away kick if you like. Found Jones down the ground near the interchange gates. Jones from centre wing goes high. Moore comes off his man, forces the ball to the front. Little fumble by Murphy. And the ball gets out to Maynard. Maynard straight across the ground. Bobby Hill had a bit of space, knocked it forward. And it was Elliott was there. He runs forward. Hand pass to Lipinski. Spilt it. And Port Adelaide able to scramble back. Can they get control though? Well, it might be Bobby Hill's going to get pinched. He's at the bottom of the pack, hovering over the ball, and Burton will take the free kick inside defensive 50 for Port Adelaide.
Dodged a bullet there, Port Adelaide.
Totally.
Didn't they?
Jamie Elliott was so entitled to have a shot on goal. We gave it to Lipinski. The handball was a bit too hot, went to ground, and Port Adelaide could get to the contest. Burton to the pack on the outer side. Finlayson a couple of juggles, goes to ground. Howe with him. Crisp can gather. Hands it off to Maynard. Back into the 50 for Collingwood. Myercheck uses the body to get rid of Jones. Leaves Elliott at the back to gather and hands it off at the top of the goal square to Adams. The most unselfish play as he gives it to the milestone man to convert. And Collingwood extends their lead to 8. 5-3-33 to Port Adelaide's 4-1-25. 4 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL.
Probably a bit of a trend as well is some of those long down the lines, those ones where they're kicking to a contest, they're just getting outnumbered at the front. Port Adelaide, Collingwood are getting numbers around the contest, and we spoke about their uncontested possession differential in this game. It's huge, and I don't know what it is currently, Jamo, this quarter, but they're absolutely torching Port Adelaide around the scramble in terms of their ability to get numbers front and centre and then use their hands to rebound and go back inside their forward 50. And again, on that occasion, just not able to stop the play and hold the play up at that critical contest on the wing.
Braden Maynard's been tremendous too in that first quarter, and on 2 occasions has rebounded off the half-back in this quarter, and just the kick over the top to 2 options that were available.
Back in the middle, it's come out to Rioli. Slick hand pass, found Rosie, stabs the ball inside 50. Dixon low down, took it. Forced a hand pass out. Chris picked it up, slipped a hand pass to side bottom. Then he went back. Murphy clears the area, and it's going to find the boundary line eventually between centre wing and half back for Collingwood on this broadcast side. Interesting. I've never seen that. Adams receiving the hand pass from Elliott. It was the top of the goal square, and he turned around behind him and gave it to the man who's playing his 200th game.
Absolute walk-in, but the ultimate team played to give it to the 200-gamer.
9-5 uncontested in favour of Collingwood this quarter.
Toss back in, lies it one and down, side bottom socket off the deck, over the boundary line and deliberate. Free kick to the power at left half back. Now it is a dangerous quarter for Port Adelaide. Collingwood have a history of going on massive runs in second terms. In their last 4 games, 8 against Freo, 6 against the Western Bulldogs, 7 against the Suns and 6 against Adelaide. They've already got 2 consecutive goals either side of quarter time. So this is really a period where Port Adelaide could be exposed. Collingwood's greatest strength, putting games to bed in the second term.
And that's where Port Adelaide, Aaron, have to keep pressure on the ball as well. Able to close time and space and deny Collingwood that, which allows them to get their game going. They've got to shut them down.
Well, it's 21 disposals, 9 kicks, 12 handballs. Port Adelaide 4 kicks, 10 handballs, so they're just not covering the ground.
Bergman went down the line off hands. It was a boundary throw in. It's come in and down to side bottom. His kick is poor. Tried to send it to Hill, only found Burton just inside the square. You know he's got a long kick. He heads to the top of the goal square. Dixon gets a run at it and nudges more underneath the footy to take the contested mark straight in front, 15 out.
Well, we've spoken about some of Port Adelaide's entries inside their forward 50 when the ball's been live have been pretty ordinary, but on that occasion Burton just identified that he had tall timber ahead of the ball and hit it to the old hotspot, Jamo, and Dixon did the rest.
Well, I think it was Moore and Murphy actually went to, was it Finlayson, to think he was in the contest, and Charlie just read it so much better.
Looking for goal number 20 for the season. Dixon leans back and puts it straight over the goal umpire's hat. 2-point game once again. Port Adelaide 5-1-31, Collingwood 5-3-33. 7 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
I actually really like Dixon's game. I mean, he's had 7 disposals, which is probably half of the course for the position that he plays as that sort of key forward to this point in the game. But he's got a huge job on Darcy Moore. And I know that sounds a bit silly because he's the forward and Moore's the defender. But Moore's such an instrumental player for Collingwood, his ability to intercept mark, but I reckon Dixon's actually been pretty good in terms of some of his, critical contests and his ability to bring the ball and not get out marked.
Well, I think the thing for Port Adelaide is that because the majority of the time they go to Dixon, isn't it, too? So this is where Darcy has to make a decision. Am I going to stay and defend, or I'm going to move off him to try and intercept and help other teammates out?
Out of the middle, Pendlebury first touch, got it down towards half forward. McCreary came through, couldn't take it. It was picked up and kicked downfield by Evans for Port Adelaide. Maynard crashes in, then tried to slap it off the ground. Rioli couldn't get it for Port Adelaide, and eventually crisp near the boundary line, or somehow he conspired to keep the ball in. And Butters eventually tapping the ball over the line at left half forward for Port Adelaide. Ball to be thrown in. Tough contest, and a 2-point margin suggests it might not be greater than that tonight. It's been really, really tight.
Swans by 32 at Perth Stadium over Fremantle. Second term there as well. Cameron left it in the ruck contest for Lipinski, who gathered on the bounce and barrels it up towards half forward. Elliott presents, just bounced off his chest. Ricocheted out to McCreary, though, who curls it into the 50. Myercheck brave back with the flight. Got absolutely smashed. Burton came across and crunched him into the footy. And a ball up to come.
Seriously brave that was too. He was open, took the contest, did what he had to do.
Myercheck's popped back up. Looks okay. Tossed up, 30 out. Cameron wins it down again to Lipinski, who turns straight to the line's tackle. Holds him up. Another ball up to come.
Great work, Lipinski. Just hit the contest on the run.
Here we go again. Elliott just knocked it out after the ruck. Had a go at it. And then Butters gave a hand pass away. Bergman cleared the area. And coming across was Murphy to knock it over for Collingwood near the interchange gates, just behind play. There was some sort of clash there that I saw involving Butters, but there was again a welfare check by the Collingwood player.
Well, my check, I think they clashed heads, I think, maybe in that contest, and he just went down to make sure he was okay.
Toss back in. Bit shallow for both rucks in the end, and Rosie had plenty of Tom Mitchell's Guernsey. Cleared out towards Bergman, who put it down. Adams charges in, a diving handball to McCreary, who soccers off the deck and takes a bounce and over the boundary line and deliberate again. The umpires have been hot on it tonight.
At least they're consistent.
Yeah, I think that was a Monty too. He was just covering ground.
Free kick, Port Adelaide, just inside defensive 50. Left back pocket. They're kicking to the northern end in this second term. Elia, did he play on outside the field of play? He did.
I think he's run.
Didn't stay on his line, and as a result, it'll be a boundary throw-in. He's given it away.
Yep, if you go over the mark playing on, which is what he did.
It's just awareness, isn't it?
We saw one of those in the Adelaide game last week that they didn't.
And it wasn't called. And I remember you asking, and I said at the time, no, that should have been out.
Yep.
Look at Collingwood here, set up at this boundary throw, and they are all going straight at goals.
So the ball comes off the ruck contest. Fresh air shot by Butters. Ball on the ground now, being held in. It's under bodies eventually. Port Adelaide smuggle it out. Willie Rioli's got a chance to kick it further. He does. Gets it down towards Marshall at half forward. Offhands it went to Nick Dacos. His hand passes straight. Picked up again, and inside 50 from McEntee for Port Adelaide. Into the pocket. Moore goes back. Gave a hand pass inboard to Crisp. Tried to flick one over his head. Put Quaynor under pressure. Quaynor's taken down in a heavy tackle by Powell Pepper. And it's only 10 or 11 metres, not minutes, metres out from the goal face. And we're going to get a ball up forward pocket for Port Adelaide.
I tell you what, Powell Pepper take a bow. His pressure there was outstanding. Had no right to hold that ball up then, but did.
It is the 11-minute mark of the second term, though. Darcy Cameron wins it down to Nick Dacos. Clear and kick out a defensive 50. Bounces back to Bergman, who sold Elia into immediate trouble. Wrapped up by Elliott. Got it back to Bergman. Skies it into the 50. Across. Cameron nearly claimed it for Collingwood. Bounced out towards Moore. Side bottom shoves Drew over the boundary line. Picks up the footy and is dumped by Francis Evans. Boundary throwing to come just outside the arc for the Power. A little bit of afters as well. There's certainly some feeling in this contest. It's been intense. High pressure footy between the two top sides. It is currently Collingwood by 2 points in the second term.
Tackling 10-4 in favour of Port Adelaide this quarter. They're at it. The intent's there.
Dixon almost took it out of the ruck contest. Cameron did, then sent it straight up and down with his kick. Crashing in was Dixon again. Swiped it out towards Powell Pepper. Gave a hand pass out the back to Rosie. Goes to the top of the goal square with his kick. And Murphy had the better of the contest with Marshall. Knocked it over the boundary line. Left forward pocket for Port Adelaide. They trailed by 2 points.
Sorry, Crossy, that was superb by Powell Pepper. Could have just slapped it on his boot, but had the awareness to handball back to Rosie to get a deeper entry, force the ball out of bounds and get a deep forward 50 boundary throw-in for Port Adelaide. Scoring opportunity here.
The thoughts of All-Australian Josh Franco. Toss back into play. 30 out for the Power. One down by Cameron. Side bottom receives it from Josh Dacos. Got it to Moore. Now Tom Mitchell tackled as he kicked it. And out on the full. Willem Drew got there in time. Closed down the Brownlow medalist. And will now get a shot on goal. 25 out. Right on the boundary line.
Just another bit of play there from Powell Pepper. I don't know if you saw it, Jamo. Just his intent and his ability to close with speed is unbelievable. He hurries up opposition, creates perceived pressure. And again, they're looking pretty good at the moment, Port Adelaide. The pressure around the footy's been outstanding.
He's ferocious, Montez too. They know they get to him quickly and they want to get rid of it.
Drew opens the angle. Snaps. Didn't quite open it up enough. And it's a minor score on the left-hand side. 1 point game. Collingwood 5-3-33. Port Adelaide 5-2-32. 13 minutes into the second term. If you're wondering how the cricket's going, it's still raining in Manchester.
Let it rain.
Powell brings it in, sends it wide to the eastern side. Dersma involved in the contest there with Maynard. Braden Maynard.
It's probably Port Adelaide at their best too, guys, in terms of their ability to lock the ball in their front half. They are a front half team and they do like to dominate field position at the moment, building pressure.
7 inside 50s to 3 this quarter for 1 goal too. So that's just highlighting how miserly Collingwood's defence is, but Port Adelaide just aren't getting the reward with the footy that's getting in there.
After contest, Drew got a hand pass out to Butters. He scrambled the ball towards half forward. Thought there was a case there for McEntee being held. It's gone the other way. And Collingwood breaking through the middle of the ground. Hand pass from Hill, found eventually to Goey. Forward he found Steele, side bottom, inside 50. Low pass finds Elliott again. Boy, he likes the Adelaide Oval. Drops it in short after taking the mark and going back. And gives it to Mitchell, who may struggle. He's 45 out straight in front, but I'm not sure how long his kick is.
No, he's kicked 6 goals this year, but you don't know about the distance.
Tell you what, if I had to pick a side, My number one small forward in the competition in Australia is Jamie Elliott. He is an absolute superstar. And again, just shows how unselfish he is, just to pass that little one off to Mitchell.
So not only has he kicked the goals that he has in the last 3 weeks, it's 16 to 20 pressure acts every game.
Yeah.
Three-time best and fairest through Sydney and Hawthorn, and now with Collingwood, and he goes for the distance and he doesn't make it. And Aaliyah was first to react, took the ball, and he'll take it in the right back pocket for Port Adelaide.
Long ball to exit the arc. Marshall gets a fly. Morse balls it away from behind. Spilled to Josh Dacos. Kicks at the required 15 into the arc. Elliott flew, or Hill flew early rather. Cameron went to ground. Picked up by Lockie Jones. He gets it to Farrell. Exiting kick towards the square. Rioli used the body on Quaynor.
First for the year.
There's nothing ahead of him. Has to hand it off to Wines, and he realises as well he can't go anywhere. Stops, he's got 2 on his tail. Gave it off to Burton. Under immense pressure, the Power, but they've got away with it. Butters now, a low ball on the bounce to McEntee, who turns straight into the Murphy tackle. Brings him down heavily as well. Ball up to come 45 out. Finlayson is filthy with how they move the footy there. Quick ball up. Cox wins it down. Through the legs of Mitchell. Out the back, Rosie. Does a full 360 around Adams. Skies it in the direction of Marshall. Howe with the double fist went through Evans. Rolls into the left forward pocket for the Power. Evans gathers, gives it to Rioli. Snaps across the face. In the scoreboard pocket, Dersma. Superman dive in front of the scoreboard. Pulls it in. 5 metres, tight angle on the right.
And I'll go back to Willie Rioli. I spoke about his first quarter performance being hugely influential. He's actually already up to 9 disposals for the game with still 10 minutes left in this second quarter, but just some of his smarts. We saw that mark, that 1v1 contest, Quaynor's first loss for the year. Just used his body superbly, and again on that occasion was influential in the play.
He loves to play the archer, but this is no easy feat. Dersma on the tight angle. Bullseye! Port Adelaide back in front. The 6th lead change of the evening. 6-2-38. Plays 5-3-33. 17 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL.
And Francis Evans too, just keeping the football alive in that pocket too. And it was Willie Rioli be able to get the kick in over the back. Great mark running back with the footy itself under pressure. His left knee heavily strapped too. He looks like he's a little bit wounded.
Well, he's come off that posterior PCL injury that he had earlier this season. He missed about 8 or 9 weeks. Maybe it's just a bit of strapping from that as well. But just let me ask you quick, yes or no, do you like the bow and arrow?
I'm a little liberal on expressing yourself. However, I'm done with it now.
Yeah.
Like, put it away.
A Superman mark and a Robin Hood finish. Back in the middle, we'll be down to the boundary in just a moment to Josh Money. Ball comes clear eventually. And
he loves to express himself.
Down to half forward for Collingwood. Picked up by Houston. Hand pass off to Bergman, and then Butters drops it. The outside of the boot wasn't great. Ball just comes off players to Bergman. He soccers off the ground, and the Cox takes the mark for Collingwood. Take a breath, Josh Money.
Yeah, just a little bit of concern for Todd Marshall on the Port Adelaide bench. Came straight from the ground looking quite ginger, so I'll keep you posted.
Cox heads up to right half forward. Jones with a big saw. Nearly took himself out on the landing. Spilled to Butters. Gave it off to Horne-Francis. Heading to the 50 for the Power. Dixon's outnumbered. Brings it to ground. Finlayson's there. A tumbling kick 5 metres to Powpepper, who fell to the deck. Murphy stayed on his feet. Gathers for Collingwood. Gets it to Quaynor. Cox threw it. The double throw. And they've pinged it. He tried to paddle it in the path of Noble, but he certainly stopped the ball's momentum and then thrusted it forward. And the throw has been paid. Francis Evans will have a set shot. 30 out, tight angle to the left.
I'd like to see it again, though. I didn't think that was too bad in terms of, like, that's how players, they keep it alive, they give it a flick, but...
It looked like a volleyball setup. He certainly stopped it, then launched it, and I reckon he changed the momentum of the ball. Francis Evans, the former Cat, on return to the 22. Kicks from 40, it starts right. Doesn't really hook enough to be anything dangerous. Minor score on the right-hand side. 6-point lead to the Power. 6-3-39, plays 5-3-33, approaching time on. At Perth Stadium in the second term, it's the Swans by 33 over the Dockers.
So the kick-in finds Murphy. Had centre-half back for Collingwood. Flares wide to the eastern side. Crisp was there, took it, played on. One bounce, down centre wing. Hand pass to Quaynor, gets it back. Tried to shake the tackle, had to force the hand pass forward in hope more than anything. It was picked up by Port Adelaide and kicked forward by McKenzie. He found Pal Pepper. He flicks it wide into the path of Boak. Tries to get around Murphy. No success. Flicked the hand pass towards Pal Pepper. He pushed off one. Gave it back to Boak at half forward. Inboard kick found Houston. He can go inside forward. 50 to the pocket. Evans going back. And Howe came late and knocked it over the boundary line. 15 around from the behind post. Exciting, adventurous play from Port Adelaide.
They just had nothing to go to ahead of the football, and it was Boak. Murphy's had a tremendous first half in the defence for Collingwood too. He's playing like that Darcy Moore role. He's getting off his man and coming to help out. Finlayson's been really quiet.
Port Adelaide by 6 in their attacking 50. Toss back in scoreboard pocket. Cox got there first, thrusted it towards the boundary line, and we'll try again a little further out. On the text line, Fran's very happy about Xavier Dersma's celebration. Finally got the bow and arrow. I love it, and why not? That's on 0437 774 774.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
Let's
why?
celebrate a bit of personality in the game.
Why?
Why not? Toss back in. Taken out of the ruck. Given to Pal Pepper, who spins out of trouble. Gave it to Butters. Tried to thrust it forward with a fist in the air, but didn't quite catch it cleanly. Side bottom was waiting. Errant kick around the body, only as far as Farrell. Right half forward. He'll centre it for the power. In the square, Lockie Jones into the arc. Rioli his target. Murphy put him to ground. Clean bowls everyone at the back. Howe nearly left it behind, but McEntee bursting onto the footy, almost had too much pace and knocked it over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play, left forward pocket.
Aaron, you talked about Collingwood's second quarters have been dominant. At the moment, Port Adelaide are +6 inside 50s. And we talk about the territory game. At the moment, dominating field position, the power.
Time in possession, 48% versus 34 this quarter.
2 goals, 3 to 1 goal straight in the quarter in favour of Port Adelaide. So McCreary off half-back, just kicked the ball off the ground, wanted territory. Aaliyah went back, almost took it, probably should have taken it, kept it in front of him. Jones came in with support, and then McStay went across the body and got the ball out of bounds with the smother. Right near the interchange gates, they're trying to get the ball back from the crowd, and that will get a throw in.
I've seen multiple players, when they're on their non-dominant side, actually kick bananas tonight, like just to get the distance that they need, rather than actually try and settle down and give themselves time on their non-preferred.
Shallow boundary throw in. Lycett gathered, handed it towards Rosie, a tumbling check side up towards the 50. Dixon got low to ground and gathered, gave it to Butters. Now off towards Dersma, who can curl it from the boundary line into the arc. Finlayson sitting underneath it. Coming late, Lipinski got a fist. Spilled towards Noble on hands and knees, trying to get it out. He paddled it as far as Dersma. Pal Pepper bouncing off Crisp. Dixon was back. There's a whistle, and it's going Collingwood's way, holding the ball.
Well, it would have to be incorrect disposal. Crisp on Sam Pal-Pepper as he tried to take him
I'm
off.
not sure he had possession as he kind of barged through, but free kick to Collingwood in defensive 50. Josh Money's on the boundary.
Aaron, a couple of painkillers for Todd Marshall, and he is getting ready to come back on the ground for Port Adelaide.
Crisp down the line with a kick off Cameron's hands towards the boundary line, and I think his intention was pretty clear there. Burton, as he strode towards the boundary line with Collingwood player in McStay in tow, and he took it over right near the interchange gates.
You in a sumo suit and let Sam Pal-Pepper come running at you and tackle you.
So ball comes back into play. Speaking of sumo wrestling, that was what the two ruckmen were doing. Nobody got it. Collingwood sent it forward though. Inside half forward, Cox couldn't take it. Bergman did. Gave it back to Aaliyah. Lost control of it as he tried to kick it. Went straight up, went about 10 metres forward. DeGoey picks it up. He was tackled by a couple. And away come the hand pass there from Drew. He gave it off to Dersma. Cleared the area back towards centre wing. Quaynor picked it up for Collingwood. Then off to Moore. Then it was off to Josh Dacos. An inside forward just kicked in hope more than anything. And going back, Farrell took the mark. And yes, it was a mark. McStay was interested in, hang on, I was blocked out. But instead, Farrell got it and dropped it short for Dersma. He's at half back on this broadcast side.
Points long, puts it through the logo up towards left half forward. Dixon and Moore entangled, went to ground. Sliding in Butters, almost a soccer celebration. Gathered clean, gave it to Rosie. Now into the 50. Port Adelaide have the numbers. Finlayson can't get away from Murphy though, who used the body incredibly well. broke free, took the innocent mark, and now the switch is on. Howe to Lipinski in the scoreboard pocket.
Lipinski, well known for the amount of acreage he can cover in a game. 56 gamer with the Western Bulldogs before transferring across. Now here's Maynard. He's got a lot of fans here tonight, Maynard. Most of his family across from Melbourne, his direct family. A bit more on that in a moment. Down the line he goes. Lipinski picked it up, gave it to Hill with a hand pass. His hand pass was astray though, Hill, and then Rosie came in. It was picked up by Nick Dacos. Finally they get it forward. Mitchell goes towards half forward, off a couple of hands, tapped on by Collingwood. Cox came through, just socketed towards the goals. 20 from goal, picked up by Farrell. Relief for Port Adelaide. He went to Drew. He had nobody to go to. He's just torped it outside 50, and Quaynor comes across and takes the mark. Drops it in short, just inside the boundary line and just outside 50 for Adams.
Taylor Adams. Certainly not confident in having a shot. He wants a lead and no one's presenting, so he'll sit it up top of the goal square, floating across Houston with the fist. Ricochets top of the goal square. Josh Dacos couldn't get there in time. Picked up by both. Turns, nice kick. Found Rosie, gathers on the bounce. Still inside defensive 50, but exits finally out to the eastern side. Lysett battling with Cameron, couldn't control the mark. Rioli now fighting with Pendlebury. They both go to ground. Rioli's on top. Ball up to come.
I'll tell you what, that kick from Boat coming out of D50, he looked up, he had Noble. If he had it gone long, it would have kicked to a 2v1. Just hooked that one back to Rosie. Superb bit of play there.
Put Adelaide by 6 points. Here's Connor Rosie again. Wheels away from Tom Mitchell. Curls it up towards Horne-Francis. Poor handball that tumbles past Travis Boak down the line. Noble gathers for Collingwood. Got it to Lipinski. Acreage in front of him. Gave it off to Mitchell. Rosie's running him down, so he's forced to handball for territory. Butters was there. Gathers for the power. Gives it to Farrell. Up to right half forward. Marshall's his target. And again, Nathan Murphy has been everywhere tonight for the Pies. Launched himself out of defensive 50 and fists it over the boundary line.
Another milestone, Nathan. I just had a look. 50th game for him tonight. This is as good as I've seen him play. 8 disposals. We'll find out how many intercept marks he's been able to take and also spoils.
Murphy making his debut in round 22 of 2018 against Port Adelaide. So he gets to 50 against Port Adelaide as well. Ball comes back in the play, ruck contest, and it's a free kick will go to Cameron for Collingwood. So Cameron between centre wing and half back up in the eastern side for Collingwood. Things just slowing down as we edge towards half time.
6-point margin to Port Adelaide, just under 2 minutes remaining.
Goes short to Pendlebury. Pendlebury hits another mark tonight. 375 games equals Craig Bradley on the all-time list. Ball down the line and high, and Aliir almost took it. Now he's got it off the pack. Drops it in short. Boat with a mark. He's behind centre wing. Hand passes straight away to Rosie. On centre wing, went forward with his hand pass as well. Did well to Butters. Butters just curls it inside 50. He found Marshall. 48 from goal, 45-degree angle. Marshall thought about going and now does go with a kick. It's a dangerous kick, but Drew takes the mark ahead of Dacos, who he's been guarding all night. He just slipped away from Nick Dacos. Now he's got to really punish him from 30 metres out straight in front.
Well, I've been watching Nick Dacos for the last 4 or 5 minutes. He drifts forward to try to break the tag, but as soon as he comes on ball, Drew's all over him like a cheap suit. And in terms of just the numbers, Nick Dacos, surprisingly, only the 11 disposals to this point in the game, and Drew has had 10 as well, and having a shot for goal.
Kicked 4 goals this season. Willem Drew comes in and from basically straight in front sprays it to the right for the minus score. 7 the margin as we close in on half time. We're nearly to the 30-minute mark of this second term. It's been a good one for Port Adelaide, although their accuracy in front of goal perhaps a little questionable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, missed opportunities, 3 that stand out.
Willem Drew's kicked 2 behinds this quarter.
Yep.
Long exit from Collingwood to the broadcast wing. McStay in the pack, fisted it down to Lipinski. His handball escorted over the boundary line by Aliir. Half-time at Perth Stadium. Sydney by 34 points over Fremantle.
Evans set shot, and was it Burton, I reckon, early in the second quarter this term, missed one on the run as well, which he'd normally kick.
Right. To punish the Pies when you have the momentum.
Yep.
Toss back into play. Cameron wins it down straight to De Goey. Quite a turn for him as well. And he volleyed it out of the air straight to Farrell. Sends it back where it came from for the Power to left half forward. Quaynor presents and keeps going with the momentum. Handed it to Pendlebury, then Mitchell, and now Noble heads into the arc. Aliir's running back and had eyes for the footy as well, despite the direction. Takes the intercept mark, pops it short, and that'll do us for a half of footy at the Adelaide Oval. It's been neck and neck, barely either side giving an inch. And at the major break, it is Port Adelaide by 7 points, 6-4-40 to 5-3-33. The goal scorers for the Power, 2 to Rosie, singles to Dixon, Dersma, Marshall and Palpepper. For Collingwood, all individual, Elliott, McStay, Adams, McCreery and Myercheck. The cricket still hasn't got underway, day 4 at Old Trafford due to rain.
This is good news.
That is good news for the Aussies. And in the Women's World Cup, the United States defeated Vietnam 3-0. Japan defeated Zambia 5-0, and Zambia had a red card, so brutal day for them. And England and Haiti are currently battling. It's the 56-minute mark. England leads 1-0. If you do want to hear it, jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the World Cup button. Here, Collingwood, or Port Adelaide, I should say, by 7 points after Collingwood led by 3 at quarter time. The thoughts of Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Well, it's been a good contest, Gemma, hasn't it?
Well, I just want to... the Port Adelaide had so much in that second quarter, the amount of football they had in there, the entries into, but yet only find themselves 7 points behind. And you talked about when you have the opportunity to put a quality team like Collingwood away, you've got to be able to do it on the scoreboard. But they've just been tremendous in defence. Quaynor's been outstanding. Murphy's been great. Moore's doing his job. Jeremy Howe has just stuck back in over the last couple of weeks after that terrible break of his arm. Braden Maynard that first quarter and the first part of the second quarter. So the defence has just been phenomenal, their run. And again, just to be able to spread across the ground. So Port Adelaide would be ruining. Yep. You've had Willem Drew miss 2 in that quarter. Francis Evans missed an easy one and Ryan Burton missed an easy one. Give yourself 5-goal margin going into half-time with, it's just a different mindset.
And we spoke about Collingwood and the way they play. And as we said, early in the season, it was a lot about their ball movement and offence. But one of their real key attributes of their game is their ability to pressure the opposition. So if you come up against the Pies and you can't put enough heat on the ball, you allow them to get their offence going. Port Adelaide, as you said, Jomo, have been outstanding. Just in terms of the tackle count for the game, they're +4 with tackles, contested possessions. Collingwood are +5, but in terms of those key indicators, I thought Port Adelaide stood up really strongly in that second quarter when we spoke about, and Anna, I think you mentioned throughout the course of that second quarter that Collingwood are very good in that second term. Normally they can break sides open. But I totally agree with you, Jamo. When you talk about missed opportunities against the good sides, because you know that Collingwood are going to come based on recent history. They're going to come and there's going to be momentum swings, but you've got to be able to nail those goals when you get those opportunities.
And there's small margins. Efficiency, it just got flipped on its head in that quarter. 73% to Port Adelaide, which is indicative of how much football they had, how much they had inside 50s, to 62% Collingwood. They just weren't able to nail their disposal, both by hand or by foot, when they had opportunities.
I think one of the, I was just going to say, one of the pleasing things, no doubt, from a Port Adelaide perspective is I think Ken Hinkley and the coaching staff will be really happy in terms of they got the game on their terms when we talk about field position and we talk about Port Adelaide are a front half team and they're a front half turnover team. They do like the ball to be played in their front half and they are ranked number 1 in the competition with that stat throughout the course of this season. So they'd be pretty happy with the way that things are unfolding currently. And I guess also too, when you talk about missed opportunities, and how well Collingwood's defence has stood up, those opportunities will come if you get enough repeat entries. And Port Adelaide just got to hang in there, and when those opportunities come up, they've got to nail them.
Uncontested, it's 100 to 109. So Port Adelaide were able to pull it back in that particular quarter. It's the stoppage clearance work where Collingwood are getting on top, but they're not getting it forward enough at the moment. Aliir has been the player that's been able to defend really strongly. It's 20 to 12 in that stoppage area. Centre clearances, it's 6 apiece. So they're both good clearance sides, but at the moment, Port Adelaide won that second quarter. So it's 1 apiece going into half-time.
I think they'd be extremely happy, Josh, as well, with how the backline has held up, considering that last week against Carlton it was pretty miserable, and throughout the season it hasn't actually ranked in the top tier teams for points against. So it feels like it's starting to click against the best team in the competition right now, Collingwood. When you look back at round 2, everything they did wrong, they haven't done tonight. Yeah. So they've addressed all the issues, in the last 17 weeks.
Well, again, the inside 50s are only an indication. You go back to last week, Port Adelaide won the inside 50, 62 to 59 over Carlton, and yet they got smashed by 50 points. Yeah. I think you touched on Dan Houston. Did he have he had 40?
42, yeah.
You almost go, I don't care. You got rolled by 50 points. And what's indicative, when you look at Collingwood, and I think the Taylor Adams one, where Jamie Allett is just the absolute Monty standout, they are always giving it to a teammate in a better position every time, and they give it first time every time. And Port Adelaide are doing it in part tonight, but that's clearly standing out for me, if they are engaging a teammate to bring them into the game, or if I'm in a better position, whether by hand or by foot, I'm giving it every time.
You know what's hard not to like about Collingwood is
because
that
they're Collingwood?
It's hard not to like them because of that welfare check that I mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah.
The Collingwood players have gone back. They realise, well, there was a clash there. I should just check if he's okay. It's like, well, you just don't see that much in the modern game. I think it's more a factor that's come in as in professional sport like the NFL, where you do see guys concerned that they don't want to injure their opposition. They want to hurt them, if you know what I mean, but not injure them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little bit of Craig McRae too. Like, he's such a positive person, and all of his press I really enjoy watching and listening to what he has to say. And like, you've got opportunities to, I think Collingwood of the past, you'd sort of just grind and stamp on them and you just leave behind to that particular point. Don't waste your time and energy on that. They're putting it in the places they know they need to, and the positiveness is certainly permeating through the team, and they're playing accordingly.
Yeah. On the text line 0437 774 774, Troy and Q says, if I was an AFL coach, I would not select a player with long hair or headbands until they got it cut. Well, Troy, unfortunately, I don't agree with you, because I love it when they have the headband or the long hair, because it's so easy to spot them.
Well, I'd have a man bun for sure if I could throw it.
Oh, what is it? You're a Richmond fan, aren't you?
Yes.
Ralph Smith rings a bell.
Hugo Ralph Smith, yes. He's got a good little set of locks on him.
Yeah.
He's got enough hair for 4 people. he could spread the love to Josh and Jamo.
Also on the text line, another listener says, sorry if you're a Power supporter, but I would be worried. And that is, I guess, the threatening part of Collingwood's game is you just never know when the damn wall could burst. And at the moment, it's a single-digit scoreline, but we're talking about the 2 kings of thrillers this year. They've combined for 8 single-digit victories, Port Adelaide and Collingwood. So it could go anywhere from here. And even though it is a 7-point lead to Port Adelaide, it's almost a stalemate. We'll start again after half-time, and it's anyone's ball game, because Collingwood have shown in a matter of 20 minutes they can pile on 5 to 6 goals.
We touched on it pre-game. Both sides have won 7 games under 14, 15 points. So the good teams win the tight ones. So it's no coincidence that both these guys are sitting on top of the ladder in first and second with 14 wins and 15 wins accordingly.
And no doubt Ken Hinkley at half-time, talking to his players, would be mentioning that. He'd be talking about there will be momentum swings. They're going to come. We know they're going to come. We've just got to batten down the hatches when that momentum does change. But going back to what we said just a few moments ago, that they've got to hit the scoreboard when those opportunities come, because they don't give you a lot. It's the Collingwood mob.
It is for Collingwood. It's perception is reality, isn't it? Like, oh, well, there's a perception that they're going to come and run over the top of us. And really,
it's totally mental now, isn't it?
That's right. Because I don't think their fourth quarters this season suggest they're as strong in the fourth quarter perhaps as what the perception is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so
Collingwood have this belief that they can do it, and their opponents go into a shell thinking that they're in danger, and it just unfails the way that we expect it to. So 7-point game here at the Adelaide Oval. Port currently leads 6-4-40 to 5-3-33, but as we mentioned, anyone's ball game still to come in this blockbuster. Half-time at Perth Stadium as well. Sydney lead Fremantle 10-5-65 to 5-1-31. We'll run through some of the earlier games, what's happening around the country and the globe as well, in other sports. But for now on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the Listen app, it's time to take the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. A report has found that Australia's aged care safety regulator needs urgent change to its leadership structure and complaints process. The independent capability review of the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission highlights key issues with the watchdog that it wants the government to address. It says the Commission has taken important steps to improve, but it needs to be more transparent and accountable when dealing with aged care providers. Minister for Aged Care, Annika Wells, says the government will consider the review's recommendations. A live surface-to-sea missile has been tested off the New South Wales south coast. The Japanese missile was fired from the Beecroft Weapons Range on the northern headland of Jervis Bay. It's part of the military exercise Talisman Sabre, being held across the country with 13 nations taking part. Exercise Director Brigadier Damien Hill says community safety was paramount.
Well, this is really important. It's the first time Talisman Sabre has undertaken a live fire exercise in the Beecroft weapons range.
The Russian installed governor of the Crimean Peninsula says there's been a Ukrainian drone attack in the region. He says it targeted infrastructure near the centre of the peninsula and emergency workers are on the scene. Ukraine has been stepping up attacks on targets in the Russian-annexed peninsula. Back home, and the mother of a missing Melbourne man has made an emotional appeal for help to find her son. Police hold grave concerns for the welfare of 34-year-old Justin Males, who was last seen on July the 11th after he was spotted walking towards Toolan Creek in Melton shortly before 7 o'clock that evening. An extensive search has failed to find any trace of him, and there's been no activity on his mobile phones or bank accounts since. Family have described Justin's disappearance as being out of character. His mother, Lisa, says Justin was in a good headspace after suffering a stroke earlier this year, which left him with a paralysed right arm.
It was my birthday on the 16th. He would never have missed that. In my heart and my gut, someone knows something. He's somewhere and we have to find him. You know, I want my boy back home. He might be 34, but he's still my baby.
Victoria's opposition is speculating that the state could face a bill of more than $1 billion over the abrupt cancellation of the Commonwealth Games. The government called off the 2026 event on Tuesday, citing a growing price tag. However, it's remained silent on how much the decision could cost. Opposition leader John Pesutto says it will deal a significant blow to the state's coffers.
Victorians will pay the price in the form of penalties and compensation. And we know with comments during the week that the compensation bill could be anywhere between $1 and $2 billion.
Greece and the United States are facing record or near-record heat waves this weekend. Temperatures in Greece are expected to soar to around 45 degrees Celsius. It comes as meteorologists say 2023 is continuing to break climate records, with nearly every major climate tracking organisation proclaiming last month as the hottest June ever. Scientists say the record temperatures are a glimpse of a warming planet caused by climate change. Australian singer David Campbell says Tony Bennett's music legacy will live on well into the future. Bennett's death at the age of 96 brings a close to a career that spanned 8 decades, sold millions of records and earned him 20 Grammy Awards. His best-known songs were I Left My Heart in San Francisco and Because of You. Campbell has told the ABC that Bennett sang plainly, honestly and from the heart.
I think Tony really encompasses the crossover from jazz to the great American popular songbook of the time. And he carried that forth and was so pure and so true to it for so many years that he kept going in and out of fashion, but maintained his honesty and his dignity and integrity to that music and to those songs.
A man has been taken to hospital after a skydiving incident in Queensland's Somerset region. Paramedics were called to the scene on Brisbane Valley Highway at Tugalawa just after 1 p.m. The man is in a serious condition with significant leg injuries and has been transported to Caboolture Hospital. ABC News.
The World Game is here.
Great touch on the box, right foot strike, he scores! Unbelievable!
The FIFA Women's World Cup 2023.
Near the corner post on the left side, dribbles to the edge of the area, strike! Oh, it's in! What a wonderful goal!
Live and commercial-free coverage on radio and on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the World Cup button.
Burr intercept, dribbles into the area, curl strike! The Aussie captain scores!
ABC Sport, your home of the Women's World Cup 2023. You'll always find top drama on ABC iView.
Show me what you got.
Always intriguing with The Messenger and Smother.
I don't know who to trust anymore.
People think I'm a psycho. Always dramatic with Vandervalk and In Our Blood.
She really doesn't like you. The world needs beautiful things right now.
And always different with In Limbo, Bay of Fires, and so much more.
I'm back for an encore. A surprise holiday.
You'll always find the best drama.
Happy.
Streaming for free on ABC iView. Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Myercheck uses the body to get rid of Jones, leaves Elliott at the back to gather and hands it off at the top of the goal square to Adams. The most unselfish play as he gives it to the milestone man to convert. Burton just inside the square. We know he's got a long kick. He heads to the top of the goal square. Dixon gets a run at it and nudges more. to take the contested mark straight in front, 15 out. Dixon leans back and puts it straight over the goal umpire's hat. 2-point game once again. Rolls into the left forward pocket for the Power. Evans gathers, gives it to Rioli. Snaps across the face. In the scoreboard pocket, Dersma. Superman dive, pulls it in. He loves to play the archer. Dersma on the tight angle. Bullseye. Port Adelaide back in front. The sick lead change of the evening.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
It's lived up to the hype so far. The top of the table clash between the Power and the Magpies. It is the home side with a 7-point lead at the major break. 6-4-40, plays 5-3-33. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you for the call on Grandstand AFL. Your experts Josh Franco and Rod Jamieson with Josh Money on the boundary. Leading possession getters Scott Pendlebury with 17, Steele Sidebottom with 16 for the Power, Zach Butters with 22 and Connor Rosie with 15. Over at Perth Stadium, half-time there, Sydney leads Fremantle 10-5-65 to the Dockers 5-1-31. At the moment, goals 3 to Hayward, 2 to Mills and singles to Tracy, Switkowski, Papley, McDonald, Heaney, Goulden, Frederick, Franklin, Brayshaw and Amos. So everyone's having a go. Over at West, leading possession getters there, Caleb Sarong with 18, Parker and Brayshaw with 17 each. But the Swans with a comfortable lead at the major break. If you do want to hear that game, jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the AFL Extra button. Speaking of the Listen app, there's a plethora of sport right now happening around the globe. If you want to hear the Women's World Cup, there's a button for that. If you want to hear the Ashes, there's a button for that as well. Albeit there has been no play so far on the fourth day due to rain in Manchester. The Women's World Cup, England's currently playing Haiti. They lead 1-0 at the 71-minute mark. Earlier today, the United States defeated Vietnam 3-0 and Japan defeated Zambia 5-0. In the NRL tonight, and today I should say, the Cowboys lead the Eels 24-4. And earlier, the Roosters defeated the Titans 36-18, and the Knights defeated the Storm 26-18. In the AFL, the early game saw the Tigers kick the last 6 goals of the game at the MCG against Hawthorn to win by a point. Liam Baker kicking the match winner in the dying stages. Tim Taranto was best on ground with 23 touches and a goal. James Sicily, the best for the Hawks, had 15 intercepts as part of his 28 touches. The Hawks looked home and hose with a 36-point lead, but the Tigers mowed them down to keep their season alive. The other early games saw Carlton absolutely wallop West Coast by 71 points. They blew them out of the water early on, never looked back. Charlie Curnow with 10 goals, and suddenly that Coleman race doesn't look as tight as it was between he and Taylor Walker. George Hewitt had 31 touches, Sam Doherty with 29 as well. The middle game saw the Lions defeat the Cats by 11 points at the Gabba. Joe Danaher had 2 goals and 21 touches. Josh Dunkley with 27 touches. The only downside for Chris Fagan's men was a knee injury to Will Ashcroft. It looked like a contact injury with Max Holmes late in the game, but the wording from Chris Fagan's presser, albeit they are going for scans on Monday and nothing has been confirmed, but he didn't sound confident that it wasn't going to be a serious injury for Will Ashcroft. So hopefully the Rising Star favourite can get back and finish out the year and isn't out long term for the Brisbane Lions. Here at the Adelaide Oval, Port by 7 points. We touched on it a bit, Josh, that it could really go any way in this second half, and both these sides love a thrilling finish. We also touched on in the pre-game whether or not it was the right call to tag Nick Dacos, and Willem Drew certainly did that off the bat, really, and has done so throughout the night. And we've seen different players across the Magpies stand up in his absence. Scott Pendlebury's had a fair bit of it, Steele Sidebottom as well. But it feels like it has been the right decision so far.
It has. And I guess when you look at the strength of Collingwood, and we did mention it briefly, as you said, pre-game, is that they bat so deep in that midfield group. And obviously, Nick Dacos has been the absolute standout of the AFL competition this year and one of the hot favourites for the Brownlow medal. So he is definitely one of those players that you have to shut out of the game. But I guess the concern potentially for Port Adelaide is you've shut him out, but then you get the old bulls like Pendlebury and Sidebottom starting to get hold of it. Another player that hasn't really caught my eye in terms of influence in the game is De Goey. He hasn't done a huge amount, Jamo. Nick Dacos, beg your pardon, Taylor Adams is another player. Josh Dacos, his brother, hasn't done a huge amount either in terms of, his influence in the game as well. So they got guys sitting there waiting in the wings. That's why they're such a dangerous team, particularly when, the chips are down. They've got so many guys that can stand up and carry the workload.
And Ollie Wines, conversely too, for Port Adelaide, he's only had the 7 to half time and hasn't really had that impact on the... But you can see De Goey, he's been crook all week. There was some concern whether he would actually play. Taylor Adams, he's had soft tissue injuries too, but we know he's a quality player. So, yeah, look, you can run with them. You can try and keep them quiet for a part of the game, and maybe the better players, they might have a quiet one every now and then, but it's hard to keep them down for long periods.
On the text line 0437 774 774, M from Melbourne says, "Hi team, enjoying the call. Craig McRae looks so animated. Looks like he's going to go out and play, and can see on the TV that Willem Drew is giving it to Nick Dacos as well. So plenty of intensity."
He's on the bench.
We'll check it with Josh Money downstairs as well about how Ken Inkley's doing. In the middle, Pal Pepper gathers it off the ruck contest. Gave it to Butters. Thrusted it forward. Maynard soccers off the deck. Back into the square to Adams, who's run down in the Houston tackle. Wines put his head over the footy. Maynard did clip him in the tackle, but he certainly ducked into it. So a ball up to come. It is Port Adelaide by 7 points to start the second half here at the Adelaide Oval.
Maybe a tactic to break that tag of Drew, starting Nick Dacos on the bench. Or just got unsettled the matchup.
Off the ruck contest, Lux of Fortune, I tell you. It was picked to be Lycett, so Lycett will drive Port Adelaide. Inside forward 50. Dixon goes for it, ball comes to the front. Surprisingly, it was the ruckman Cameron who actually roved it and then was grabbed immediately by Pal Pepper, forcing a ball up. 30 out, straight in front of the goal face. Attacking that River Torrens into the ground for Port Adelaide.
Cameron won it down, but Rioli was there to crumb. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Marshall marks, hands it off, and Evans can walk one in to start the third term. Port Adelaide strike first in the opening minute. Their lead, 13 points. 7-4-46, plays 5-3-33 on Grandstand AFL.
Tell you what, Gemma, I've loved Rioli's game tonight. He's had the 10 disposals. Looking at some of the other numbers inside forward 50, he's only had the 1, but just his ability and the smarts that he's got in traffic to then bring other players into the game. We've seen it 3 or 4 times throughout the evening, and again on that occasion, just his ability in traffic to get that ball out wide to Evans. Outstanding. Just having a look at the replay there, Collingwood demonstrated about how it was Marshall got the handball over and he didn't. The ball, he had his right hand restricted and he's just passed the ball over and been able to, and the umpire has missed it.
A rugby league game going on tonight. That's what it was.
And it was a forward pass too, Crossy.
Yes. So ball back in the middle. Stalemate and a secondary ball up now. Drew got it out. Did well to Butters. He just kicked it forward to half forward. Finlayson comes out. Couldn't get control of it. Evans was in there as well. Howe for Collingwood. Head pass for Dacos. He couldn't get a clean disposal. Now Rioli's taken high. And he will be the recipient of the free kick. Nick Dacos looked up then and he was being charged down, and then he followed up by making the mistake with a tackle on Rioli, who went in low and hard. And so Rioli will have a look at the goal face from 40 out.
And called superbly, Crossy. That man, Pal Pepper, just a raging bull at the moment, isn't he? And we've spoken about his closing speed and his ability to create perceived pressure in the opposition. That was just a classic example of it again tonight.
Missed round 18, Willie Rioli with family commitments, honouring his father. Away and astray with the kick. It falls right on the line and Collingwood rush it through for the minus score. So the margin extended in favour of Port Adelaide to 14 points as we cross over 3 minutes in this third quarter. Moore plays on from fullback and runs a long way. And then kicks it out to the eastern side, out of bounds.
He passed the 25-metre mark there. That was a pretty big run. Lucky to get away with it. The Magpies haven't had a score since the 4-minute mark of the second term.
Wow.
Yep, 2-goal forward to Port Adelaide. Second quarter, only the 1 goal to Taylor Adams in that second.
14-point game as it's tossed back in on the outer side. Cameron won it down the throat of Adams. Kicks up towards the arc. 2-on-2. Lockie Jones committed. Took out Aaliyah in the process. At the back, Myercheck gathers. Kicks from 40 and it bounces through for his second. A defensive lapse there for the power backman. And Collingwood capitalise. Straight back in the third term. 7-5-47 Port Adelaide. Collingwood 6-3-39. 4 minutes in. It is a 8-point game.
And Taylor Adams is the one that across the midfield too, just to be able to get that kick forward. You just got to curb your enthusiasm, isn't it? Like Lockie Jones is a quality player, hard at it. We talk about Sam Powell-Pepper up one end. Lockie Jones is the other in defence, but he's gone a couple of times, put himself in position where he's got his hand onto it, has an impact of the contest to the advantage of his own team, footy over the back, and first time they go inside 50 this quarter, Collingwood, when they kick a goal.
It was your classic 12-point turnaround too, wasn't it? Rioli misses, Myercheck kicks it.
Out of the middle, first touch will go Collingwood's way. De Goey powers through, gives a hand pass to Crisp, is able to push off one, takes a bounce, goes forward for Collingwood inside 50. Kick was good and the mark was better. Brilliantly pulled down by McStay. That's why they got him. Contested football inside 50. Dan McStay with the mark.
And almost, I don't know whether you sense that they flicked the switch a little bit, Collingwood. As we said, we just witnessed Rioli missing that set shot. Didn't even make the distance, I don't think.
No.
And then they go down and kick one, and then all of a sudden it gives them the spark, and they look irresistible the last couple of minutes.
Secured as a free agent at the end of last season. McStay kicks the goal. 2 quick ones for Collingwood and 2 for Dan McStay. And here we are with a 2-point margin. It's Port Adelaide 7-5-47, Collingwood 7-3-45. 5 minutes into the third term.
And we spoke about Nick Dacos and the influence, albeit on the boundary line or only limited time in this third quarter. But then all of a sudden, Jordan De Goey's been involved in that goal. He wins the clearances. He breaks away from 2 tackles. Travis Bogue couldn't get his hands on Jack Crisp. And out the other side, Taylor Adams is involved where he was being pretty quiet. So they're starting to step up.
They've gone bang, bang, and all of a sudden, those 6-goal momentum runs we talked about, it feels like this could be the start of something special for the visitors. In the middle, Cameron wins it down again, and Adams can gather. Plenty of time to think in the centre circle, and finally he sends it in the path of Elliott. A bit shallow. Fumbled by McKenzie. McCreery gathers, turns straight into his teammate. They bounced off each other and enabled McKenzie to wrap up McCreery. Ball up to come, 45 out. Collingwood's attacking 50.
Everybody just steadies for a moment. Actually, that ball up wasn't great. Anyway, it's come down to McKenzie for Port Adelaide. Clears the area, back towards the interchange gates. McIntyre picked it up, just put it to boot straight away. Moore had sagged off pretty well, picks it up down to half forward. He didn't look. Almost taken there, and surely that will be holding on. No, Rosie was taken away by McCreery, who's got the ball now. Inboard he goes. Pendlebury inside the centre square. He goes to the top of the 50 and it slides inside. Lipinski with ball in hand, tackled by a couple of Port players, forcing a ball up, 40 from goal, straight out in front. Collingwood attacking that cathedral end of the ground.
They've had a solid night, the umpires, but that wasn't a great passage there. Tossed up Houston, head over the footy. Adams on his tail will get another ball up. Straight in front of the Collingwood goal, close to the arc. 2-point game. Cameron wins it down. Adams again. Just ran past the footy. Houston bangs it clear out towards the outer side. Finlayson presents. Marks ahead of Howe. Just behind centre wing. Long ball up to left half forward. Charging out is Marshall. Low to ground, spoiled away, but Rioli was waiting. Front and square. Pops it into the 50 to Dixon, who marks 35 out straight in front.
You just need smart players, don't you?
Yeah.
Assess the situation really quickly. Willie Rioli's done that on that occasion. He got a bomb from 50, may have made the distance, may not. Just a little dinky kick to Charlie Dixon. Now having a shot on goal.
They're the type of players, if you're going to win a premiership, I reckon they're the types of players you need on your list. The Rioli types that have that composure and that just that bit of magic.
So Dixon starts at true centre half forward. Crosses the paint of 50 with a booming kick that never looked like missing. Dixon's got 2. Port Adelaide back up by 8. 8-5-53, plays 7-3-45. 9 minutes into the third term on Grandstand AFL. Josh Money's downstairs.
Interesting use of Nick Dacos so far in this half. He's spent the first 9 minutes on the bench and had a bit of work done on his left quad. Know that the Brownlow medal favourite has certainly been kept quiet by Willem Drew and is now coming on for the first time in 10 minutes.
And another player talking about starting or needing to start to have a bit of an influence on the game is Finlayson. Just the 2 disposals, almost been unsighted, hasn't he, throughout the course of the game? But on that occasion, he was influential in Port Adelaide's goal.
So Nick Dacos straight into the centre square. Ball comes down to go. He got a foot to the ball. Went sideways. Kick from Rosie off the ground. Got a few metres and then hacked to the ball by Steele. Side bottom out into the eastern boundary and into the crowd goes the Collingwood player. Didn't notice who that was, but Farrell may have given him a slight nudge. It was Elliott who went into the crowd. No, it wasn't. It was Hill. Now that he comes back, I can see him. Popped up. He just got a slight nudge and couldn't pull himself up. Oh, still a throw-in out there on the eastern side. Neither ruckman able to touch the ball. Houston came through, only got it as far as Cameron, the ruckman for Collingwood, sent it forward. Mitchell does similarly in the hope of a mark inside 50, but going back and taking it was Horne-Francis for Port Adelaide, holds things up.
So the power supporters weren't in any rush to brace his landing, were they, as he came over the barricade?
They all should have jumped on him.
Horne-Francis heads wide.
British Bulldog style.
In front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand. Here's McKenzie. Supposed to be a 2 to 3 week ankle injury, and he's back after missing just 1 round. Long ball up towards the logo. Dixon throws a fist trying to carry it on, but Nick Dacos was waiting at the back, darting and weaving through traffic, but his handball catches a hand and falls towards Houston. Now Drew, not a lot ahead of him. He'll kick in hope up towards right half forward. Finlayson charging out, tried to tap it to Marshall. Josh Dacos knew what was coming. Heads through the spine for Collingwood. 1-on-1. Horne-Francis battling with De Goey. Spills to Mitchell. Now McCreary breaks away through the square. He'll kick it wide. Side bottoms alone on the logo. Up to right half forward. Here's Hill in space. Too far out to score. Not sure what to do with it. Not a lot presenting. Bobby Hill on the boundary line.
Too slow.
He'll have to drill it into the scoreboard pocket. It's wide, low and past Elliott as it rolls over the boundary line out on the full. Free kick Port Adelaide, and they won't waste any time bringing it back in.
McKenzie just dropped it in short to Dersma, just inside defensive 50. Eastern side goes long with his kick. Moore and Dixon was there. Dixon knocked it on, picked up by Maynard for Collingwood. Then he gave it to Nick Dacos. His forward hand pass again, set up Noble. Boy, his disposal hasn't been up to scratch. Dacos gets a ball off the ground now, just slams it on the boot. Aaliyah pushed away his man on opportunity for Burton. Received a hand pass from Rosie. Lots of mistakes now as the pressure comes. Drew finally got it. Noble got him. Ball up just inside the centre square on this broadcast wing. And we'll get a ball up now.
Swans by 27 at Perth Stadium. Here it's Port Adelaide by 8. Off the ruck contest, trying to break away was Adams. Houston was against him. Spills to Josh Dacos. Flicks a handball out to De Goey. Into the left forward pocket he goes for the Magpies. Myercheck back with the flight, but Jones read it best with the fist. Spoils it. At 45 out over the boundary line. Left forward pocket for Collingwood, who are kicking to the northern end in this third term.
Superb there from Jones.
Does look like a 5, 6, 7, 8 year player, doesn't he? Instead of just...
I want to see his birth certificate.
Well, he was big in the SANFL finals a few years ago before he was picked up. Now, off the ruck contest, high shot on Cameron, said the umpire. Scott Lycett not impressed, but it'll be a free kick. Cameron will go back for Collingwood. 45 metres out is Lycett, so Cameron's going to have to kick this from about 51, 52.
It's the left arm it was, or... Yep, over the shoulder.
Oh, in the end, yeah.
Technically there.
Yeah. So Darcy Cameron, 1 game for Sydney, then traded in 2019 to Collingwood. Missed round 18. Let's see how he goes with his kick. Arcs out to the right a bit, kicks it from 51 and he's missed. Well astray as he hooked it. So often you see that from players. They run out to the right to get the extra distance and then miss to the left as they pull it across the body. So just a minor score, 7 points in favour of Port Adelaide.
Bergman exits with a long ball to the outer side. Finlayson's outnumbered, so has to fist it towards the boundary line. Marshall left it behind. Howe tries to gather for Collingwood. Got it to Murphy. Now side bottom. Plenty of time to think about the approach. Heads down the line. McStay shoved out of it with both hands by Lachie Jones. And the mark is paid to the power backman. Jones called to play on. We'll send it back up the outer wing. Packer waits at left half forward. Through Lycett. At the back, Crisp charging onto it, as was McEntee. McEntee one out. Slaps it forward to Dixon. Can't gather a little bit wide of him, 30 out. Moore can. Picks it up, gets it to Noble. Now Pendlebury's having an absolute night at the Adelaide Oval. Over the top to Crisp. Gave it to Noble. He fumbled and dropped the footy. Boak swarming onto it. Paddled it towards Horne-Francis. It bounced off his bootlaces towards Josh Dacos. His handball a little wide and went over the boundary line. This time it'll be tossed back into play.
Relentless, the Port crowd.
Yeah, but to be fair, the highly skilled Dacos missed and managed to get it to the feet and then over the line. Interesting. So the ball to come back in from the umpire. Boundary umpire flings it in nicely. This time it's Cameron down, but well roved by Horne-Francis. He's on his left foot. He kicks with the right straight across the arc of 50. Finds Dersma, has to get rid of it quickly. Doesn't do it. Ball drops down as Hill came late to knock him over.
Bobby Hill.
Now Bobby Hill fights on and stops Finlayson from clearing away as well. And he's forced the throw in on the eastern side of the ground. So Bobby Hill working very hard for Collingwood on that pressure aspect.
And Horne-Francis was outstanding. Just the cherry on the cake was just to hit that target inside 50, but just missed it.
Or kick it on his left.
Yeah, or do that. It kept the ball alive.
Toss back in. Cameron tried to take it out of the ruck contest. Lycett slapped it away. Nick Dacos gathers, gives it to Mitchell. Now Pendlebury. Handball through a spinning tackle, coughed it up to Houston. Bangs it into the 50. A bouncing ball off Finlayson. Butters charging through. Knocked it to Marshall. He'll retreat backwards with a handball. Port Adelaide have numbers at left half forward. Horne-Francis, blind turn and then kicks to Dersma. Too far out to score. Tight on the boundary, left half forward.
Pressure from both sides. Strong, isn't it?
Yep.
Two players uncharacteristically fumbling.
Dersma heads into the pocket. Lycett's back with the flight. Dixon underneath it. Moore did well, as always, to paddle it towards the boundary line. And side bottom is spun over by McEntee. Darcy Moore, first for intercepts in the league. 16% contested defensive loss rate. Certainly an all-Australian lock. Possibly even the skipper.
I'm no psychologist, but Collingwood play in monster games almost every week, so the noise of an opposition, particularly here at Adelaide Oval, just wouldn't impact them, and I think the results sort of indicate that.
What's that? That's not noise. So the ball, they chain it up and they get it to Nick Dacos. Down the line he goes with his kick and just fumbled there by McStay. Had about 6 inches of room before he hit the boundary line. And the ball in out on the eastern side, right on centre wing. Yeah. This is only 50,000. Collingwood was saying, this is not noise. 80,000's noise.
Well, what about next week? They play Carlton at the MCG.
Oh, there will be some noise there, I would suggest.
You'd have to think it after Carlton's win today, again, and last week, and Collingwood flying, they're going to get 85, 90,000.
Yeah, I reckon it might go real close. Just depend on the conditions on the day, I reckon, in terms of the extras who might come in.
Ball up on the outer side. Cameron down to Mitchell. Now Pendlebury off a step. Heads up to the 50. Myercheck just didn't quite read the ball drop. Neither did Aaliyah, though, at the back. Elliott coming through. A handball under pressure. Tried to get it to Mitchell. Lipinski's there with the assist. Sold side bottom into immediate trouble. Dersma wraps him up. And a ball up to come right half forward for the Magpies. They currently trail by 7 points. 8-5-53 plays 7-4-46. Pretty low scoring last couple of quarters, but it's set up for an enticing finish here at the Adelaide Oval.
And Port Adelaide's tackling pressure has been outstanding this quarter. They're +6, so 14-8 Port Adelaide's way.
So side bottom eventually surrenders the ball to the umpire. And what are we waiting on? Is there a blood rule come here? Because, in fact, it must be. So, Josh Money on the boundary.
Yeah, blood rule for Darcy Cameron. Bit of claret by the nose, so that's the hold up there, Crossy.
Thanks for that. It'll be Cox to go across to this contest right on the other side of the ground. That happens so often as well. They stop playing, the player's got to run across the ground. So off the contest taken by Houston. Forward hand pass. He found Butters. Butters with his back to goal, forced to go back. Goes to the spiral punt. Does Dersma when he receives it. Moore punches the ball to the front. Comes down to Farrell. In good hands. Slaps it forward again. Finlayson pulls it in. Hand pass was brilliant and quick. McEntee, forward he goes. Marshall in the forward pocket takes the mark. And he will go back on a very slight angle from 25 out.
Finlayson's been really quiet. You've highlighted that tonight, just the impact or little he's had, but on that occasion wins the contest. Murray was been so good Murphy has been so good against him up until that point, but his hands were clean first, which allowed Port Adelaide time to be able to use the footy.
He has done that before, though. I reckon started slowly but can build into the game. Finlayson.
Todd Marshall edging in on 100 games. He's up to 91 with tonight's match. He's already got 1 goal. And unusually for him, misses from 25 out. That's normally just straightforward for Todd Marshall. He'd be disappointed with that, as will the Collingwood fans will be happy.
He had the yips a couple of years ago, though, didn't he, too? And he took a lot of time. There was a lot of adversity off-field, and he got his whole routine together, and it's really improved the last 18 months.
More plays on to Noble. Launches it up towards the broadcast wing. Cox front position was held by Aaliyah. Free kick to go his way. They'll take the advantage. Nick Dacos races away. Spots Lipinski, who turns and goes in the path of Elliott. A little bit shallow his kick, and on the bounce, Elliott is escorted over by Lockie Jones. So boundary throw-in to come left half forward. Over at Perth Stadium, Sydney still lead by 27 points as they approach three-quarter time there.
Did you pick them?
I did pick the Swans.
I'm not going to pick Fremantle for the rest of the year now.
My tips mean nothing, Jamo. I've had a miserable season. Cox slaps it over his head, looking for Adams. Lost the footy and went to ground. Rosie gathers, uses Butters, the dynamic duo down the line. Dixon may have been held by Moore. Bounces off him to Boak. Now Willie Rioli curls it up towards the arc. It bounces in space between Howe and Quain, or Howe gathered, didn't realise how close Horne-Francis was. Brings him down in the tackle, spills out to Drew. A handball central to Rosie. He's 45 out, gives it off to Burton, who charges in. The pace, the poise, the finish. No, he's missed it on the right-hand side. Just curled late. Port fans in the Riverbank stand end were ready to explode. Instead, it remains a 9-point game, and Collingwood are off.
They go out to the eastern side, and Moore takes it, 2 grabs.
That was a great mark there, Crossy.
Yeah.
It was a 2v1, had to mark it, otherwise it was coming back with interest, and did.
Well, he took it and then fell to ground and reached out with the right arm to hoist it in. Now he goes down to half forward with a kick and wide, and Bobby Hill, probably not the target he wanted. Outmarked there by Houston. Takes over for Port Adelaide at left half back. Houston, we know the quality of his kick. It's long and direct. Looking for Dixon. He got up, perhaps unrealistically. And he came to ground with a crash, and a few people were jumped out of their seats by that. So it'll be thrown in. It went over the boundary line eventually. We'll get a throw in. It's an 8-point, 9-point game in favour of Port Adelaide.
Kane Farrell in the hands of the trainers downstairs. We'll check in with Josh Money in a moment. Toss back in. Cox beat Finlayson in the ruck tap to De Goey. Caught in 2 tackles. Bounced off one, dropped it on the second. And no free kick. Play continues. It'll be Port Adelaide's ball anyway, as Nick Dacos soccers it over the boundary line. Deliberate.
Does that define makeup, Paul?
Yep.
So Port Adelaide now back towards the arc. In the pocket, Dixon's the target. Cox back with the flight, launched himself, brought it to ground, but Wines was waiting, uses Finlayson. Now Evans, the snap, curled it into the left-hand behind post. And a free kick to Collingwood, who currently trail by 9, 8-7-55 to 7-4-46 in the third term. Josh Money downstairs.
It looks as though Collingwood has activated its sub. Tom Mitchell, who started as the sub last week, has made his way to the back of the bench, and Oleg Markov is changed, ready to come on.
Oh, bad hand pass. Horne-Francis has nabbed Maynard. He's going to get a free kick, 40 out, straight in front. Maynard ran past, and it must be said, on his right foot side, and he's a left footer, and he ran past Howe, took the ball, and Horne-Francis was onto him in a flash. Pulled him down and will take the free kick.
It's great anticipation, wasn't too? He knew he was coming and he was going to take him on. He tried to fend off. He was caught on his right side. The tackle was good, but just the difference there. You had 4 or 5 Port Adelaide players go to Maynard, and all the Collingwood, his teammates were trying to get around and support him.
Critical kick, you'd think. In comes Horne-Francis. No mistake. Power fans up and about, why not? They stretch that lead again. It's out to 15 points. Port Adelaide 9-7-61. Collingwood 7-4-46. And that margin is a game high, 15 points.
And just having a look at some of the numbers again, the inside 50s this quarter, +3 to Port Adelaide, 10-7. And the tackle count is probably the area where Port Adelaide have dominated since quarter time. They're now +9 for this quarter. So in terms of their ability to pressure the opposition, keep heat on the ball and get the ball going back inside your forward 50, Port Adelaide have been outstanding.
Back down to Josh Money.
Yeah, so confirmation that Collingwood have made that change. Oleg Markov on the ground, Tom Mitchell off. Kane Farrell seems to have a left ankle issue as well, so I'll watch that one for Port.
And you can see that they're actually kicking the football more now than they are handball.
15-point game. Finlayson takes it out of the ruck, kicks up towards the 50, bounces through Pal Pepper. Murphy goes to ground, and they swarm on him to force a ball up. 40 out, straight in front. Port Adelaide's 50. Dixon in the ruck against Cameron. Cameron tried to take it and fumbled. Goes to ground. Dixon over the top of it. He's bowled over. They'll try again.
Just efficiency, Aaron, at the moment. 79% to Port Adelaide, 59 to Collingwood. So not only are they impacting themselves by not using it well, the pressure from Port Adelaide is intense.
Both rucks leave it behind. Markov there, the sub. Handball out of the 50. Straight to Houston, though, who kicks wide. Spots Burton as they compose themselves the power. Burton wants an option. He'll head to the top of the goal square. Getting a run at it is Dixon. Nudged out of it in the end. At the back, Moore put it down. Picked up. High tackle possibly. Late whistle on Horn Francis, who caught Pendlebury. Free kick to the Pies in defensive 50. He certainly dropped to his knees, Pendlebury, and Horn Francis looked at the umpire just waiting for the whistle that eventually came. Oh. The kick is miserable by the veteran. He's given it straight to Dersma, who cannot finish. He's kicked across the face for a minor score on the left-hand side. And whilst it is a game-high 16-point lead, it isn't enough against Collingwood. No. They need to finish them off here.
Pendlebury has, as good as he's been, there's probably 3 occasions tonight where he's just disposal been a little bit off.
It may not even be a 16-point lead. We're getting a score review to see if it actually touched the left hand behind post, which would make it out on the full. If it was direct, I think it's been tapped in, so it'll be a boundary throw-in off the hands of Marshall, possibly.
Yeah, it's touched them in that contest.
Hopefully you didn't write it in your book, Crossy.
Murphy and Marshall? Oh,
yeah.
No, you wouldn't lie.
No score.
What are you using, liquid paper, or you...
I do have some, yes, it's okay.
Oh, I had no doubt you would.
Boundary throw in left forward pocket, 15-point lead to the Power.
So in comes the ball. Dixon goes at it with Cameron. Dixon brought it down and Pal Pepper tried to smash through. He left it behind and then Evans got an opportunity to slam it on the boot for Port Adelaide and it's careered out on the full.
Start to ask yourself the question, don't you? Is this going to hurt Port Adelaide? Will this come back to bite?
I reckon
I agree.
It's all over.
Wow.
Well, it's not all over in the game, but it's all over in the area where we think it's going to end up, which is a really tight one in favour of Collingwood.
Perception's everything, isn't it? And Collingwood will come home hard.
Pendlebury had a long exit out of the 50 to right half back. Cameron couldn't claim it in the pack. Now a ball up to come. So Scott Pendlebury gained 375 tonight, as Crossy mentioned earlier. Ties 9th overall with Craig Bradley off the ruck contest. Butters curls it into the 50. Dixon entangled with Moore. And off hands, it rolls over the boundary line. Speaking of historic stats, so Pendlebury and Craig Bradley also linked through partnerships. So Pendlebury and Steele Sidebottom playing their 279th game together passes Stephen Silvani and Craig Bradley into 9th spot for most games by a pair of teammates.
Ball comes back into play. Pal Pepper through the pack again, across the body, top of the square. Was it touched? It's bouncing away. It's through for the minor score anyway. So the lead does extend this time. No score review. It is 16 points in favour of Port Adelaide. And again, it's Nick Dacos ready to take the kick in and wants to move quickly. Goes straight down the ground. Dangerous kick. It's almost turned over by Pendlebury. Got a foot to the ball, though. Just kicked it down the ground. Intercept mark taken by McKenzie in the middle of the ground for Port Adelaide.
Got the numbers if they roll quickly. McKenzie on the 45 to Finlayson. Heads into the arc. Horn Francis flew, but Marshall backed into him. It cleared both. Collingwood get the exit. Miscommunication from the attacking line in the Port Adelaide's 50. And here come the Pies. Hill onto the footy. Caught in the tackle. Good chase there. Charging onto it from McKenzie. Socked forward by Lipinski. Adams gathers. He's pushed off his kick and out on the full. The pressure from Port Adelaide was immense to hold any flow there from the Magpies. They looked away. and instead it's a free kick to the home side right back pocket.
Just another missed opportunity, Gemmo.
Yeah, Trent McKenzie's tackle on Bobby Hill, I thought he was going to do him for speed as the ball goes over the boundary line on the half-forward flank for Collingwood. Then Taylor Adams, the ball just rolled and rolled, wasn't it too? Burton got across to him, tried to snap on his left, just didn't have enough time.
And the Horne-Francis Marshall inside 50, it almost looked like they looked at each other and said, no, it's yours. No, it's not yours.
Yeah.
And no one went for it.
Yes, no, wait.
Yeah.
Run out.
The old cricket score. So the ball comes back into play. So Burton had cleared the ball down the line and it had gone out of play, and Rosie tried to run away with it, was pulled down, finally gave a hand pass out belatedly after looking at the umpire, expecting a free kick against him. It's gone to Burton. Powell Pepper was involved. Farrell down the line, going back with a flight of the ball bravely. Dersma, and then he tackles Noble as he forced it to ground. We get a ball up out on the eastern side of the ground, just shy of the logo. Boy, this contest heating up, coming to a crescendo in this in the final quarter that's ahead of us. 16 the margin in favour of Port.
Cameron the only ruck as Dixon came late. Still it managed to go Port Adelaide's way. Boak got the clearing kick, bounced off the shins of Quaynor. Josh Dacos came in, ricocheted to Evans for the power. Here they come. Boak to Butters, slipped on the handball receive. Powell Pepper comes in, he can't wrench it out either. Nick Dacos, another handball that's a little wide of his teammate over the boundary line. Some Bronx cheers in the Mark Rasciuto stand, but it will be tossed back into play.
Even if Port Adelaide did win the football and go forward, they didn't have the numbers. Collingwood had 5 behind. Lysett was in the middle of the ground. He'd just come on. Charlie Dixon had come up to the wing to take the ruck, so it would have been all Collingwood.
Ball comes back into play. Wine's got a hand in there. Adams cleared it away into the centre square for Collingwood. Dersma, not Drew, was across. Picked it up, gave it to Farrell, immediately tackled. And forces a ball up. McCreary, the tackler for Collingwood, just on the outer side of the centre square. We'll get a ball up.
Difficult to defend, Crossy, too, aren't they? I mean, Collingwood have come through the middle on many occasions tonight, but they're so comfortable in using all parts of the ground when they've got hold of the football.
Nick Dacos back into the game. 9 touches this term. Tossed up. Cameron wins it down against Lysett. Volleyed out of the air by Houston. Up towards half forward. Maynard battling with Rioli. Bounces towards Rosie. Speared by Maynard out of the air. Great intensity. Gives him some afters as well. Meanwhile, the ball's kept going against him. Port Adelaide up to left half forward. Boak slipped over at the wrong studs. And his handball over his head carries over the boundary line. Oh, a slippery, dewy night after a bit of rain before bounce, and Travis Boak has fell victim to the conditions.
I just heard Dennis Cometti in my head then when he fell over, just the crowd. Someone's ordered the red wine with the fish.
Ball comes back in. And picked up by Wines. Interesting hand pass. Got it forward. Butters was there. Inside 50. Carries with the kick over the back of the pack. Slides through for the minor score. Port Adelaide again. Just the minor score. 17 the margin in favour of Port. Moore's ready to bring it back in for Collingwood.
They look so threatening in the sort of front half of the ground, but they just don't look like scoring. Threatening, but not able to hit the scoreboard.
And
with
15
Major.
inside 50s this quarter to 8.
So it's a 3-goal game heading into the final term. And based on Collingwood's track record, it could still go either way. Port 9-9-63, Collingwood 7-4-46. Goal scorers heading into the final term. For the Power, Rosie and Dixon with 2. Singles to Powell Pepper, Marshall, Dersma, Horne-Francis and Evans. For Collingwood, 2 to Myercheck and McStay. Singles to Elliott, Adams and McCreary. 3-quarter time at Perth Stadium as well. Sydney lead Fremantle by 29 points here. Here it is a 17-point game for Port Adelaide, and it's set to be a grandstand finish on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
45 nominations. That's a lot. That's how many the ABC has received in the 2023 Logie Awards. If you have a favourite ABC show or a presenter you think is amazing, you could show them some love by voting for them and helping to convert those nominations into wins. Vote for your favourite ABC programs, presenters and actors in the 2023 Logie Awards. Simply head to tvweeklogies.com.au. Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Cameron won it down, but Rioli was there to crumb. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Marshall marks, hands it off, and Evans can walk one in to start the third term. Cameron won it down the throat of Adams. Kicks up towards the arc. 2-on-2. Lockie Jones committed. Took out Aaliyah in the process. At the back, Myercheck gathers. Kicks from 40, and it bounces through for his second.
Secured as a free agent at the end of last season. McStay kicks the goal. And here we are with a 2-point margin.
So Dixon starts at true centre-half forward. Crosses the paint of 50 with a booming kick that never looked like missing. Port Adelaide back up by 8.
Oh, bad hand pass. Horn Francis as Nab Maynard. He's going to get a free kick, 40 out, straight in front. In comes Horn Francis. No mistake.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
It has all the makings of a classic, a sold-out crowd absolutely heaving at the Adelaide Oval. The two top teams in the competition right now, and a 17-point margin the way of Port Adelaide. 9-9-63, Collingwood 7-4-46. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you for the call as we head into the final term. Your experts, Crows Premiership player Rod Jamieson, 3-time Showdown medalist Josh Franco, and Josh Money is downstairs on the boundary. Jamo, what are we expecting? Are Collingwood going to be able to run them down again?
Well, I think there's still so much improvement in Collingwood. When you have a look too, 15-8 inside 50, 71% efficiency Port Adelaide, 53 to Collingwood. And then the uncontested, it's 135 apiece. So Port Adelaide, to your point, Josh, like they have. We sit here, the second quarter, third quarter, you go, Port Adelaide are all over them here. And the only area that they just cannot get that huge differential is on the scoreboard because they've kicked 3-5 in that quarter, albeit 2 were rushed. But that's just the kick that goes deep. And it's almost a wasteful kick because it's on the line and it's easy for the defenders to be able to do it. You know, Scott Pendlebury his efficiency has been a little off tonight, but the champion, he's not alone. He's played that much football. He knows the circumstance, the situation to be in. But a couple of the Port Adelaide players just got on top in that quarter, which have been quieter in the first half.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You mentioned some of those numbers, but the tackle count, this is the area where I've been really impressed with Port Adelaide. Collingwood are a hard team to tackle, and that quarter they were plus 12. So we talked about the disposal efficiency, and I think you mentioned 53% that quarter for the Pies. That's off the back of the pressure that Port Adelaide were able to apply, which then allowed them to dominate the field position. They dominated the inside 50s, as you said, where they were plus 7, and also the clearance count in terms of their ability to clear the ball from the stoppages has been outstanding. So, it's interesting when we talk about Collingwood and we look at and track their profile in terms of how they play the game and where they come at sides. Fourth quarters, expect them to come, but I think if Port Adelaide can sustain and maintain the rage in terms of their pressure and intent around the ball, it would hold them in good stead, and based on those numbers we just talked about, they're in a really good position to go forward from here.
So it was, I guess, Collingwood, they got their 2 goals in really, within a couple of minutes, I think it was, in that third quarter too. So it was just a couple of moments, but Trent McKenzie's tackle again on Bobby Hill and Ryan Burton's too on Taylor Adams, they just make those big difference because Collingwood had the space. They were all over it, and they were going forward to score, and inevitably you'd think, but just the defensive work, and that was very evident by Port Adelaide in that third quarter.
And I guess it's one of those things as well. When we're looking at Port Adelaide, they haven't activated the sub yet. Collingwood have. Do you start thinking about doing that, injecting Williams into the game and having a look at the players that haven't had a huge influence? Obviously, we spoke about Finlayson started to get going that quarter. Is Lycett doing enough in the ruck? So, again, it'll be interesting to see what they do here with their sub.
On the text line 0437 774 774, Dave says, "Hi team, enjoying the call. Go the power till the flag is ours for the taking."
Well, to that point, if I may, like Dylan, as he comes on, he's played majority of back, hasn't he, too? So, the makeup or where they end up putting him, he's got such a prodigious kick and a great effective kick too, which is what they need to at the moment to carry lines.
Just on Dave's text, unless Port Adelaide go on an absolute surge here, a win would have them level with Collingwood, but their percentage is not enough to take top spot tonight. But the minor premiership's certainly up for grabs, so plenty to play for. Regardless of what happens from here, I think we've seen that round 2 was a bit of an anomaly, and we're going to see these two sides in September play some really good footy.
Well, again, but we've seen Collingwood blow teams away in one quarter. We've seen Port Adelaide do it as well. Now, it might not happen tonight too, but I think there's a big tick that Port Adelaide have been able to get to the score they have, which is the one that, Collingwood keep their opposition to. So they've been able to get their nose to this particular point, and it could have been a lot further ahead too if we've spoken about how poor they've been in front of goal.
Who wins then, Jamo? Who's your pick?
On form, you'd have to go Collingwood. I picked Port Adelaide at the start of the game because it was at home. Wouldn't be surprised if Collingwood win, but this tight, it's just got everything that we always know that Collingwood can do in the last quarter.
17-point lead to the Power. One down by Lycett. De Goey gathered. Drew tackled him, fell into his back. Whistle stayed away. Collingwood will still get the clearance. Noble into the 50. Lockie Jones launched himself with the fist. It'll stay in the field of play, right forward pocket. Bobby Hill nudged into the footy by Burton and over the boundary line.
And Dacos becomes a bit of an X factor for Collingwood. Hasn't had a huge night. Started to get going in that third quarter. Drew's still got to lock him away.
See, Bobby Hill hits the pack here. Just flush on. Chris, do the same, and you put your head over the football, you're every chance.
Rosie's got Dacos in this contest. It comes to Myercheck, though. His kick was smothered back over the line. So Drew's gone to De Goey at the moment in these contests. And
which is dangerous, Crossy, because looking at Dacos at the moment, he's on Rosie. He's not going to give him a lot of attention.
Rosie wants the footy.
Rosie's a ball getter. Yep. Ball comes back in, and it comes to De Goey. He's under pressure. It comes out to that man, Nick Dacos. He got it to Crisp and then away to Steele side bottom on the snap from 40. There's a goal. Non-preferred left foot, not a problem for Steele side bottom. Collingwood getting the first of the final quarter. 8-4-52 plays Port 9-9-63. 1 minute down in the final term.
Just how good. It was inevitable, wasn't it? We're sitting here calling it and watching. You can see it unfold. Get the matchups right. Get the people around the football that you need to. Defend seriously hard. And then you leave another quality player in his 302nd game of his talent with the space that he does on his non-preferred to have face on goal.
It was interesting too because Nick Dacos started inside the centre square, so whether they've dropped the tag, the Drew tag or not, we'll keep an eye on that. But as we said, Dacos just has that ability to keep working and impose himself on the game and was influential in that bit of play then.
11-point game. Both rucks get a hand on it. Nick Dacos charging through, but just at the last moment, Horne-Francis got a hand, pulled it in and gave it to Rosie into the 50. Low ball, bounced off Finlayson. McEntee's caught in the tackle, dropped it. Whistle stays away. Howe Sockers out of the 50 for Collingwood. Crisp with a couple of bites. Gets it, hands it to Lipinski. Skied it up towards half forward, and Jones floating across. Takes the intercept mark, but there was a Shepherd. Aaliyah with the block on McStay. Collingwood get the free kick. They've flooded forward. McStay into the 50. He's kicking for Myercheck. It clears the pack. Elliott's racing onto it, but can't get there in time. Boundary throw in 25 out. And Jammer, you alluded to Taylor Adams, I think, who went down behind play.
It wasn't anything untoward. Lockie Jones just barreled into him and knocked him well and truly over, a long way from the footy.
So another murmur around the crowd as the ball comes back into play. Deep in Collingwood's forward line. Lycett somehow conspired to get it to Houston, and then Wines gave the hand pass to Jones, who tried to kick it down the ground straight off the side of the boot and out on the full. Nick Dacos will take the free kick. He's about 35-40 around from goal and over the boundary line when he starts the run in.
Macedonian Marbles boys, he knows where the goals are, these boys.
So Josh Dacos makes no mistake, like father, like son, he has delivered. And the Dacos name finally steps up. And Collingwood are closing. It's down to a 5-point game. Collingwood 9-4-58. Port Adelaide 9-9-63. 3 minutes down in the final quarter. Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco, we talked in the third quarter. Had Port Adelaide wasted too many opportunities?
Well, it looks like it's unfolding that way at the moment, Crossy, and we knew Collingwood were going to come. It was inevitable. They're coming at the moment. They're dominating field position. They're getting hands on the footy. They're looking threatening. Port Adelaide have to respond here. And I've got to say, it does look like they've dropped the Drew/Nick Dacos tag, which I don't like from Port Adelaide's perspective. Nick Dacos, he keeps working. He'll keep imposing himself in this contest.
5-point game out of the middle. Taylor Adams will swarm onto the footy. faked the handball, but then slipped over, still manages to get past Drew, kicks into the 50s, looking for Lipinski. Bergman should have taken it, slipped through his hands. At the back, Elliott gives it to Josh Dacos, dummies around Rosie from 45. Josh Dacos can't finish. Minor score on the left-hand side. The Pies are coming. It is a 4-point game at the Adelaide Oval.
Players need to hold their nerve, Port Adelaide, as do the coaches. To your point, Josh, do they go back, put Drew on Dacos and set up like we had in the past? How long do they wait?
Burton plays on, and on the point of the square he finds Rosie. Gave the hand pass off to Houston, then to Powell Pepper, caught in the tackle, had the hand pass, got it to centre wing. Maynard picked it up for Collingwood, back to Josh Dacos inside half forward with a kick. Off hands to Horn Francis, took his time and then chipped it over the top. Bergman behind centre wing, kicks it long down to half forward, looking for Finlayson. Howe did well. Powell Pepper tried to keep it in. Howe has kicked it out on the full. It's Powell Pepper's free kick. Into the pocket he goes to Finlayson. And Powell Pepper had managed to knock that onto Howe's leg and out over the line on the full. Finlayson now plays on, across the body, snaps, narrow with the snap. 5 points the margin. Port Adelaide clinging to that lead as we cross over 5 minutes in the final quarter. Moore brings the ball in quickly to Markov.
Short pass just out of the 50. Hits Cameron, who gives it back to Markov. Kept running. Marshall on his tail. Did well. Got a handball to Crisp. Now De Goey to the outer side. Adams in space. Marks on the logo. Turns. Puts it in the path of Nick Dacos. It was a poor kick. And Bergman bursts onto it. Here's the rebound. Over the top to Powell Pepper. Not a lot ahead of him.
No, just needs to cool his jets here. Let Port Adelaide reset, get numbers ahead of the ball.
Squares it up to Burton. Now chips it over the top to Marshall. Port Adelaide methodical as they move forward. A 5-point lead. All the momentum Collingwood's at the moment.
Markov brought on for his speed. He's shown that through the middle of the ground on that occasion, and don't they spread in a hurry.
Marshall inside to Rosie. Now Burton gets around Josh Dacos into the scoreboard pocket. 4-on-4. Finlayson launches, went through his hands. Dixon gives it back to him. Finlayson snaps from 30 and it's across the face on the left-hand side. Minor score again. 6 points the margin. 7 minutes into the final term. Port Adelaide up by a goal.
So Murphy went down behind play. I think Finlayson got rid of him before he went to that ball. Meanwhile, the ball's on the opposite, on this broadcast side. It's come off hands. Port Adelaide back in control through Jones. Goes down the line. Wasn't fantastic. It's found its way to the back. And there's Finlayson again. The left footer inside 50. Squares it. Top of the goal square. Powell Pepper couldn't take it. Back on it quickly to ground as he was tackled by Howe. Released it. It's picked up by Josh Dacos. Takes his time. Went to the centre. Dangerous kick. Nick flies over the top. Couldn't take it. Ball on the ground. Drew's in there. Then knocked out by Rosie. It's come all the way to Marshall. Then he tried to give it successfully to Wines. Tried to back out of the tackle. He's taken. And play on, said the umpire. It still goes on. Port Adelaide, another chance. Through Marshall. Into the pocket. Willie Rioli back and takes the mark.
What a game.
Well, what about the kick into the middle of the ground? It's just that they want it.
Them, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get punished for your Russian roulette game. Can we go back to that? What was it, Russian roulette weeks ago when we tried to play? Where that came from?
For all those that have watched Ted Lasso, it just says be a goldfish. So if you make a mistake, just forget it and get on with it. And that's what Collingwood, and that's how they play.
Here's Willie Rioli. It's been an emotional couple of weeks for him. Comes in. Oh, he's emotional now. Port fans back on their feet. Important goal for the Power. 10-11, 71. Collingwood 9-5, 59. That rubber band stretches to 12 points.
But as you said, it just gives them that little bit of buffer, doesn't it? Rioli, as I've mentioned throughout the course of the game, has been outstanding just in his little patches and his ability to do the magical things. And on that occasion, when Port Adelaide have missed so many opportunities going forward and so many opportunities when creating shots on goal, was outstanding to go back and finish. And as you said, to put Port Adelaide 2 goals up.
2-goal margin. Let's check in with Josh Money downstairs.
Dylan Williams has finally moved from the back bench and is now warming up on the boundary. So it looks as though Port's about to pull the trigger on its tactical sub.
Intrigued where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
Goey, Butters, Drew, Pendlebury.
Tossed up in the middle. Cameron wins it down. DeGoey soccering it forward to the attacking edge. Farrell out to meet him. Sends it back. Nick Dacos busting through traffic. Bouncing off a couple of bodies. Lysett puts his head over it. A handball out for the power to Butters. He left it behind. Cox soccers forward. He's looking for Hill. Gets around Bergman. Swoops onto the footy. Handball up towards Myercheck. Lockie Jones cut it off. It's messy footy. It's desperate footy. Port Adelaide now on the counter. Butters swings it in. On the bounce, Marshall gathers, centering his kick. Didn't favour Wines, and side bottom sits underneath it to take the intercept mark. He wants to go, but his handball wasn't clean to Quaynor. They're under immense pressure. Quaynor slaps it towards the boundary line. It'll just stay in. Would have been deliberate if it got over. And in the end, it's a boundary throw in off the hands of Burton.
They just want to keep it alive, don't they? You think they're not going to give it, and they do, and they're away. They've just been a little bit off at times.
Crowd just posted there's 47,965 in the house. So it was a sellout, but that's the actual attendance. The ball off the ruck contest. Nick Dacos was trying to run to it, couldn't get there. McCreery picked it up. Around the corner, long he goes. Jones flies over the top, brings it to ground for Port Adelaide, inside 50 for Collingwood. The hand pass came out in the direction of McStay. Gave it to Pendlebury. A little bit of Hollywood there over the head with his hand pass. It's fallen for Nick Dacos. He's taken down in a solid tackle. High, said the umpire, by Farrell. Dacos will get a shot at goal from 40 out.
Just head over the footy. He had an initial fumble, and Kane Farrell just stayed up high. Had to go low.
And we've seen Port Adelaide miss so many opportunities in front of goal. You give this bloke an inch, he'll take it.
Well, his brothers always put one away in the earlier in the quarter.
Rising star of last season, 32 possessions against Port Adelaide in round 2. Also kicked 2 goals in that game. Then he comes, crosses over 50. There's his kick, and straight as a die. The Dacos boys have one each in the final quarter. Collingwood close in again. 10-5, 65 plays Port Adelaide 10-11, 71, 12 minutes down in the final term on Grandstand AFL. On the boundary, Josh Money.
Yeah, Port Adelaide has made a big call. It's their first choice ruckman, Scott Lysett, who's moved to the back bench, and Dylan Williams is getting ready to come on as the sub.
I actually don't mind that.
Yeah, well, Finlayson's gone into the ruck for the first time tonight.
Yeah, and we saw Dixon a couple of weeks ago from memory. Was that against Geelong, I think? Aaron, you're sort of nodding your head. I think it was against Geelong when he came in and turned the game in that third quarter. I beg your pardon, it was the Gold Coast Suns just a couple of weeks ago. It was outstanding. So they can use Dixon, they can use Finlayson. Finlayson's proven that he can carry the ruck duties, and Dixon's a good backup for him.
Marshall now is the only tall up forward for Port Adelaide.
Finlayson stayed down, and Cox tapped it straight to him. Clearance for the power as it tumbles up towards the arc. Markov gathers for the Pies, gives it to Quaynor. It's a 6-point game. Collingwood currently trail. Up to left half forward. Farrell battling with Hill. Both go to ground. Boat gathers. Kicks under pressure around the body. Bouncing to McEntee's. Bowled over by Quaynor. Lipinski now. He's hit heavily. Ball up to come on the logo on the outer side.
A couple of attempts to play for free kicks there. Not giving them away, the umpires, that's for sure.
Just get your head over it now. Don't worry about playing for them.
On the logo on centre wing on the eastern side, Finlayson off the ruck contest. Tumbles a ball to half forward. Socked forward by McEntee. It's across the ground and picked up by Powell Pepper. And then he's back slammed by Howe into the ground. Turnover. Collingwood gets it back to centre wing. Ball on the ground again. Burton picks it up. No mucking around, says let's just boot it inside 50. And there was too much control there from Moore over Marshall. Just showed him how to do it and took a chest mark in the end, relieving opportunity for Collingwood to get out of their defensive 50.
Sam Powell-Pepper is sucking the big ones in too. Jeremy Howe might be in some trouble.
More up towards centre wing, broadcast side. Bergman launches with the fist. McCreery can gather on the bounce though, and he loses Burton. Real estate in front of him. Takes a bounce, 55 out. McCreery centres his kick unselfishly for Hill. It's an excellent squaring ball. And Hill takes it on the chest. 30 out, straight in front.
That was an unbelievable kick from McCreery. That was unbelievable. Running full tilt, and he does have some wheels. Just his ability to square the ball up and kick it to the advantage of Hill. Just took an uncontested mark. That's hard or impossible to defend.
Well, I think sometimes too, when players run at you, you go, yep, that's the option I'll go to. But when they're both there, you kick it to where you want them to go to the advantage, and it was an easy chest mark.
Bobby Hill comes in from the arc. He'll kick from 35, and the damn wall has burst. Scores are level in the final term as Bobby Hill kicks his first for the night. 10-11-71 the power. Collingwood 11-5-71, and there's still 10 minutes to go.
And the rain is coming down. But this is the thing, you've got the black and white jumper on right now. We've been here before. We know what to do. We know how to execute. And they've been able to do it. McCreery's been good. He hasn't had a huge game tonight, but once he gets hold of it, the speed, he's thinking, he's used it. Burton got caught, couldn't keep his feet. He's not as quick. He just had to bring him to ground, and now they're trying to sort out in the middle. They're a little bit rattled. Sam Powell-Pepper's coming to the middle. Charlie Dixon, Ollie Wines, Zach Butters, DeGoey, Cameron, Taylor Adams and Pendlebury.
And they're lost down back, and Burton's just realised they've got too many in their back six, so he's going to have to run through the square. And thankfully the umpires kept the whistle away instead of giving them a 666 warning.
Well, they'll be advised. Yeah, they'll be advised that is a 666 warning, so the ball will be thrown up in the middle, which, if anything, should favour the ruckman. And the true ruckman in Cameron got it down. Nick Dacos couldn't get a clean disposal. That rain affecting things. Things are slippery. DeGoey's taken down in a tackle. And at the front end of the centre square for Collingwood, the ball will be thrown in the air. So they've got back to level scores for the first time. Well, Port Adelaide had been in front since the 17-minute mark of the second term. So the ball off the pack goes out onto the eastern side. Bobby Hill accidentally kicking it over the boundary line. 50 out from goal. We'll get a throw in. Collingwood attacking the River Torrens end of the ground.
And Crossy, you mentioned the ruckman v the non-ruckman in Cameron v Dixon, especially in these conditions. Looks like Cameron's intent is to knock it forward, get it going forward, get a bit of field position.
Scores level. Cameron with a double tap down. He's looking for Pendlebury. Wines is behind him. And over the boundary line it goes once again. Now behind the ball, Jamo, there's been an incident with Willie Rioli and Nathan Murphy, and he's essentially hit him with a left hook to put him down, and he will go for weeks for that, Willie Rioli.
He has struck him, so he's definitely going to get one.
Nathan Murphy, not the first time he's been struck on the Adelaide Oval.
There's been quite a few that go after him. Time in possession this quarter, 52%.
Cameron down to Adams into the 50 for Collingwood, presenting his McStay. Bounces off him at the back. A very well-played fumble by Farrell. He could win an Oscar for that as he escorted it over the behind line. Minor score, but it gives Collingwood the lead for the first time since the 7-minute mark of the third term.
That was the big hit forward again from Darcy Cameron. Port Adelaide mids have to be onto that.
So the kick in finds Houston, and then off to Burton, and he's out on the eastern side with his long kick. Ball comes over the back. Port Adelaide with numbers. McEntee goes to Finlayson, pulls his kick just to give it to Butters. Don't think that was what he was trying to do. Butters' hand pulls forward to Marshall, and then in the pocket, he's found the mark there for Evans. So Francis Evans will have a look at the goal face from 20 out. A little bit of an angle. Decides to hand pass it off. Straight to Finlayson. Across the body. Goal for Port Adelaide. Back in front. They trail for about a minute and a half. They got an important goal back now. It's Collingwood 11-6-72. Port Adelaide move up to 11-11-77. 18 minutes down in this final term. What a shootout we've seen.
And just looking at the replay, Finlayson, I thought was outstanding on that occasion. He looked up ahead of the ball. He had no numbers, decided to pull the kick. And then Port Adelaide were able to work it inside their forward 50 and find Evans. And another good finish from Finlayson. And we spoke about his first half, his second half. Going back through the numbers, he had one disposal in the first half. He's now had 13 second half disposals has had a huge influence on this game.
7 lead changes across the night. Port Adelaide with the advantage. Still plenty of time to play on Grandstand AFL. In the middle, both rucks stay down. Cameron one out, but Dixon can crumb. Managed to get it out to Drew, but he kicked it straight into the back of Pendlebury. Ricochets towards Cameron, who soccers to the outer wing, towards the boundary line. Hill racing onto it, knowing exactly what was coming if he didn't get there. It would have been deliberate, and instead he escorts it over for a boundary throw-in. Over at Perth Stadium, Sydney by 22 points as they approach the final siren against Fremantle. And still no play at the cricket.
Just Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox just in control of the hit-outs in this last quarter, and hit-outs to advantage as well. Adams, Dacos are clearly getting hold of the football first touch.
Cameron had first touch again. Ball's bobbled around and then come back to Houston. Down the line he goes. Evans just knocked it up in the air and then hit it further forward another 20 metres. And Noble, trying to make the turn, just slipped over and the ball went over the boundary line. Left half back for Collingwood will get a ball to be thrown in by the boundary umpire. 5 points the margin. Port Adelaide with the lead.
Toss back in. Cameron and Dixon battling on the outer side. Neither get a clean tap. Charging through Horne-Francis. Bounced off a couple of players and left the footy behind. Nick Dacos to Josh. Up the outer wing. Meyer checks the target. Aaliyah floats across. Didn't have an opponent. And Elliott puts him down after. No 50-metre penalty. Aaliyah at right half back has it.
Daniel McStay apologised on that occasion. He allowed Aaliyah to go on his own.
Heads to a pack at right half forward through the hands of Cameron. Evans put it down at the back as well, and Boats wrapped up in a tackle close to the paint. We'll get a ball up just inside the field of play in front of the Jack Odie stand.
Just got to go with him. Even the numbers, you just can't allow Aaliyah, their best intercept mark, to go at the footy on his own.
Lipinski off the ruck contest, just drives the ball long, and Aaliyah goes back, couldn't take the mark, comes to the front. Myercheck cross the body into the forward 50. Farrell leads the chase for the ball. He's followed by Elliott. He takes it to the line, and the umpire says, no, that's okay.
No, it's not.
No, he's pinged him. Sorry.
He had no intent other than just both hands paddled it straight across the boundary line. He only had to go a metre to his right, and he could have rushed it.
So 1.5 metres from the behind post is where the ball went out. Elliott will take the free kick for Collingwood. Ducks around, across the body. There's a goal. Collingwood back in front. 21 minutes down in the final quarter. And Elliott kicks his second of the evening. It's Collingwood 12-6-78. Port Adelaide 11-11-77. What a contest.
Well, when you talk about those critical moments, those incidents in the game when you can reflect on, we saw Aaliyah drop that mark which he'd normally take. He had two hands on it. Ball came to ground, and then making those decisions and that composure under immense pressure. And it's really easy to sit up here in the commentary box and talk about Farrell. He should have done this, should have done that. But even if he had taken the ball cleanly, almost the momentum would have taken him and slid over the boundary line instead of trying to rush it over the boundary line. It was deliberate every day of the week. Good decision from the umpire. Just needed a little bit more composure and think his way through it, even though he was under immense pressure.
Collingwood by a point in the middle. Lysett won it down. Horne-Francis gathers, caught in the tackle by De Goey and dropped it. Wines now under pressure. Socket out of the air by Nick Dacos. Absolutely launched it into the 50. Elliott puts down his opponent McKenzie, but can't crumb the footy in time as it rolls over the boundary line. Left forward pocket.
You talk about the change in momentum. Josh Dacos 7, Adams 6, Nick Dacos 5, side bottom 4. Port Adelaide mids can't get their hand on the footy currently. Butters just the 2 disposals, and Rosie only the 4 for this quarter, and Horne-Francis just the 2.
So in comes the ball. And Dixon fighting hard. He took it away from Cox. Got the ball onto the boot outside 50 towards the boundary line. Finlayson just taps it towards Evans. He's taken in a tackle straight away. Somehow got a kick. Gained another 20 metres. Noble slides in. He's tackled immediately. Ball up forced by McEntee for Port Adelaide. It's on the eastern wing, just slightly towards half forward, in fact, for Collingwood.
Pies by a point off the ruck contest. Willa Rioli battling with Jack Crisp. Rioli dives into the footy and over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play. 12-6-78, plays 11-11-77 in front of 47,965 punters.
Plus 5 tackles to Collingwood in this quarter too. The pressure, not only are they winning the football, using it well, but their defensive work outstanding.
Cox down to Nick Dankos, who socketed it straight up and down. The sub, Dylan Williams, kicks a hidden hope, and it worked. He finds Evans just forward of the logo. He'll launch into the 50, 2-on-2. Marshall wrapped up with Murphy, spilled to Palpepper, who bursts through. He can race towards the top of the goal square and set the stadium alight. Sam Palpepper puts the Power up by 5 with his second of the night. 12-11-83, plays 12-6-78, and we've still got 6 minutes to go.
He's been outstanding, Jamo.
As he was.
On both sides of the ball as well. His defensive pressure, we've spoken a lot about his ability to close. He's almost a battering ram. He creates perceived pressure amongst the Collingwood or the opposition defenders, which he has done throughout the course of this season, but also offensively, that crumb, and he's electrifying at the minute, playing terrific footy.
Round ball gets by both sides, 18 apiece. The contested 23-25. It's hard to split. 9 inside 50s, but have kicked 3 and Collingwood 5 in this quarter.
Out of the middle, Collingwood get the advantage. Dacos couldn't handle the ball. That was Nick. It went to Horne-Francis, who dropped it wide out on the eastern side to Boak. In turn to Rosie near the boundary line. Port Adelaide's record in fourth quarters this season is their best quarter. 11 wins and 6 losses. Rosie goes high down to half forward, through Cox's hands, over the boundary line. Just inside 50 for the Power, attacking that cathedral end of the ground. I've said it before, Power fans will be saying a few prayers.
Good serious question. Like Mason Cox, if you've worn glasses or goggles swimming, like it must be hard when it's dewy and muggy like that they don't get fogged up.
Speaking of, he's just missed the boundary throw in. It's gone straight past him. Side bottom at the back. Errant kick out of the 50. Dylan Williams should have taken it. Bounced off his chest. Here come Collingwood. McStay trying to soccer forward. Sitting back was Lockie Jones. Gave it to Butters. Slips over but gets a handball back to McKenzie. Port Adelaide looking to reset.
Dixon's down.
McKenzie heads up towards the logo. Rioli launches. Brave with Howe coming the other way. He'll centre his kick. Houston marks in the square. Dixon still on his haunches. Houston kicks it straight in his path. Marking wide is Williams. Dixon can barely move.
Yeah, that right knee, he's really favouring. He's limping down to the forward line.
Williams sends it into the arc. Scoreboard pocket. Marshall shoved out of it. At the back is Evans. Can rove. Tackled just before he got boot to ball and pushed over the boundary line. About 10 metres out. Port Adelaide's attacking 50. They're up by 5.
Dixon signalling to Finlayson to go down the ground and take the contest down there. He's going to take it on inside the forward line. He is battered and weary and just able to drag his body to the contest. It comes off hands. It's on the ground. Dixon's involved right now. So are about 6 others trying to get the ball out. Still it's bobbling. Still side bottom over the ball. Can't release it. Umpire comes in. Give it to me. 20 metres out just to the right of the posts for Port Adelaide.
Side bottom a little ginger as he walks away from the contest. Tossed up. Cox takes it out of the ruck, brought it down with one arm and kicked it on the volley straight to Lipinski. Just inside defensive 50 takes the mark. Collingwood flooding forward. He'll head up the spine. Crisp outnumbered. Alia and Jones, who gets plenty of height on the jump with a big fist again. Straight to Boak. On the logo, heads in the Marshall direction. Murphy has been excellent at the other end all night, with a great fist over the boundary line in front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand.
I must admit, I've probably changed my thoughts on Murphy. Like, I thought, he just scraps. He's always sort of got into a bit of trouble. He tries to push and shove. He doesn't really impact, but that's as good a game as I've seen tonight from him.
As we mentioned, 50th game for Collingwood. Ball to come back. Cox probably had the better of it. Maynard was on the bottom of the pack. Rioli tried to get it out. Quaynor took it away. Down towards centre wing, scrambles a kick, found some turf there. Myercheck just inside the boundary line, hand pass inside to Pendlebury. The aging one kicks it forward, into the forward pocket, taken by Elliott. Was it out on the full? No, said the umpire. Grabbed it just inside the line. And he's about 40 out, bang on that boundary line.
About 15,000 boundary umpires on the other side, Jamo, thought it was out.
And Trent McKenzie was giving it to the umpire.
Yeah.
Standing on the line like a ball boy.
These are the ones he kicks too.
Oh, he's just...
Good value trade back in 2011 to Collingwood from GWS. In he comes, arcs out to the right, goes at goal. Oh, he doesn't make any mistake at all. Elliott gives it to the crowd and then goes to celebrate with his teammates. He has his third of the match, and Collingwood are in front again. 13-6-84. Port Adelaide 12-11-83. We have a close one.
48, 50 metres on the boundary, and I'm trying to think what round it was. What was the game that he kicked the goal after the siren?
Was it Carlton?
At the MCG. If you can think how and where he kicked that, that's exactly where he's kicked that from tonight.
He's a star.
A tight angle, and that's his third. 3-goal one. He's kicked 2 in the last quarter.
10 lead changes across the night, 5 of them in the final term. 1-point game in the top of the table clash.
With 3 minutes remaining.
Anyone's ball game.
Absolutely it is. And it's those, I think you've already mentioned it, Jamo, the side that can stay composed under the pressure, that makes the good decisions, will win this game of footy.
John Noble coming on late. They didn't have the numbers back, so they've just been given a warning, Collingwood.
Tossed up. Cameron charges in early and keeps Finlayson out of it. Tapped it straight to De Goey. Volleyed it straight towards Adams, 5 metres in front of him. Bounces back to De Goey. Hands it to Pendlebury. Adams in game 200. Curls it into the arc. Myercheck didn't read it well. Bounces in space. Chris onto it. Handball wide of Myercheck. Just didn't hit him. Would have had a ping at goal if he'd nailed his teammate. Instead, it's a boundary throw-in. 25 out, left forward pocket.
Tell you what's hurt Port Adelaide this quarter, centre clearances. Obviously, Lycett's gone off the ground. He's been subbed out of the ground. Collingwood are +3 centre clearances. They get field position off the back of that. They look quite threatening.
Almost 48,000 patrons in the ground, and they've seen the closest of battles. Cameron had the ball off the ruck contest and looked like he dropped it cold in the tackle of Finlayson. Umpire called play on. Secondary ball up now.
Good call, Crossy, too. It was a great tackle by Finlayson. Cameron's just, that's incorrect disposal or holding the ball.
Up goes the ball again. Finlayson probably had the best of it. Rosie knocked it towards the boundary line. And Josh Dacos picked it up and then was hustled over by Boak right on the attacking 50 for Collingwood.
Heading towards full-time, 1-point game. Toss back in. Finlayson and Cameron doing battle. Cameron won it down through to Goey though. Boat kicks around the body, up the outer wing. Butters on hands and knees trying to wrench it in. Dylan Williams comes in, hands it to Dixon. Caught the back of the ball. Centres in the end, straight up and down. Elliott can gather, spirals it into the 50. He's put it in the path of Myercheck. Racing into the right forward pocket. McKenzie trying to mow him down. He kicks under pressure and Aaliyah, the goalkeeper, thrusts it through for a rush behind. 2-point lead, 2 minutes left. Here come the power. Aaliyah kicks out to the right back pocket. Rosie to the outer wing. He's looking for Boat. Use the body. It clears both he and Markov. And over the boundary line, it'll be tossed back into play.
Could be an important point for Collingwood.
Oh, wow.
2 points up.
What they say, handy point.
Yep.
1 minute 58 remaining on the outer wing, neutral area.
Finlayson gets rid of Cameron, but then can't dispose of it. It's come out to Rosie somehow in the tackle. He just kicks it down to half forward. He's going to find the line. No. Moore goes back, pulls it in just on the line. Head passes forward. Maynard and Powell Pepper come together. The ball goes out over the line. They eye each other off and then surrender the ball to be thrown in. It's 40 around from the goal face for the Power.
I think we've got one of the Dacos boys. Might be, I think it's Nick, just limping behind play.
Tossed in, Dixon won it down. Quick tackle laid. Drew wraps up Markov. Ball up to come. 40 out, right forward pocket. Dixon uses the body. Cameron over the back, got the tap, but straight to Horn Francis. Centres his kick, hits Farrell. He dropped it under pressure from side bottom. Out towards the square. Fans thought it was a mark. Play continues. Farrell tries to soccer it back towards the arc. Wines charging out to meet it, handed it straight to Crisp. Here come Collingwood. flies, pies are loose at the Adelaide Oval, over the top. Mark taken by Crisp, and he will stop dead in his tracks with 60 seconds left. They're up by 2.
They know how to play this out. They've done it so many times.
Crisp called to play on. Port have the outnumber in defensive 50. Lockie Jones floats across through his hands. Finlayson at the back, bangs it towards the square. Dixon slaps it forward, but there's no one ahead of him. Murphy comes out. Marshall crunches him. Ball up centre square.
Oh, big stoppage this one.
Oh,
big stoppage. Horne-Francis on the fly.
Darcy Cameron back in. Charlie's coming to take it.
He's dragged himself to the contest, Dixon. Can he get it away from there? It's gone forward for Port Adelaide, but only just. Cameron on hands and knees. It's in, trapped underneath the big ruckman. Forces another ball up. Port Adelaide have marched the ball about 10 metres closer to their goal face, but they're still inside the centre square.
23 seconds.
Ball goes up again. Horne-Francis ran through. And then an attempt to get it out by Adams, and the umpire said play on. Ball on the ground again. Collingwood throwing numbers at the ball. Pal Pepper with a big tackle. Still, it's in close. Another ball up just at the front end of the centre square for Port Adelaide. Last shot at things.
They're going to do it again.
Yep. 47,000 on their feet. Hearts in mouths at the Adelaide Oval. The last roll of the dice. Tossed up. Cameron wins it down. Adams clears it for Collingwood. Sitting back, McKenzie. Dummies around the tackler. The siren sounds. Collingwood dismiss their biggest threat on the road. They've survived again and dare the rest of the competition to try and wrench the premiership out of their grasp. They win by 2 points.
Side by side, they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barricades are shouting as all barricades should. Oh, the premiership's a cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
It certainly lived up to the billing. Collingwood by 3 points at quarter time. Port Adelaide by 7 at the half. 17 at three-quarter time, and Collingwood surging home to win by 2 points. 3 goals to Jamie Elliott, 2 to McStay and Myercheck, singles to Dacos, Adams, Sidebottom, Hill, McCreary, Nick Dacos. Collingwood, their 16th win of the season, could lock away the minor premiership.
Good old Collingwood forever. They know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barricades are shouting as all barricades should. Oh, the premiership's a cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
The Collingwood comeback. One of the scariest prospects in footy at the moment, and it's claimed another victim. Port Adelaide lose by 2 points. Collingwood marching towards a minor premiership with their 16th victory of their campaign. 13-7-85 to 12-11-83. We'll be with you till 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so plenty of time to try and head into both rooms and get all the reaction from what was an absolute thriller. And we'll start with our experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Well, it's 5 games under 1 goal this year and another 3 under 14. They just continually win the big games. They don't give up. They've just shown a history of being able to do it. And now Crossy 2, that's 8 games at Adelaide Oval, and now 5 under 1 goal in which they've won. And they come here and they seem to not be phased.
Well, I reckon if at the start of the game you had written a script as to how the game was going to play out, that's exactly what I reckon you would have written. You would have said it was going to be a tight, hard contest. There's going to be a lot of tackling, a lot of pressure. The intensity is going to be high. It's going to be a finals-like intent and sort of mentality from both teams. Port Adelaide are going to get momentum. They're going to have some shots on goal, but at three-quarter time, whatever happens in the Collingwood huddle, they just flick that switch and they talk about that belief, Crossy, and that perception that they've got this belief And the reality is they have it, and they keep coming back from behind. They have got such talented players across every single line that if 1 or 2 or 3 are down, there's others that take the workload. And as I said, then they flick that switch and the momentum just swings almost on its head.
Scott Lycett and Port Adelaide have tried to manage him all this year, haven't they, too? He just hasn't been able to see out games. He's had a crook back. Not quite sure exactly what his ailment is. Maybe the age, too, catching up on the workload that he's had to carry. But in the end, in this last quarter, get your hands to advantage. You talk about Darcy Cameron's had 17 hit-outs this last quarter. Mason Cox had 5. Charlie Dixon's had 4. Scott Lycett's had the 2. They've been smashed in that area. Hit-outs to advantage, 6-1 in that quarter alone. And then the clearance worker, Taylor Adams, Nick Dacos, just first possession as well. Still side bottom, Jordan Ngoe. The numbers just built, and that again is on top of exactly what you're saying and why Collingwood do so well. But you take away one of your strengths in the middle of the ground where Port Adelaide do it so well.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's good to sit here, and it's easy again to sit here in hindsight and talk about the sub and taking a Lycett off, who's your number one ruckman. I guess it sort of does raise your eyebrows a little bit if he's not injured, in the fact that you've got a Cox who's 213 whatever centimetres he is. Darcy Cameron, who, as you said, his numbers have been very good, or were very good in that last quarter. But I think the thing that complements what they do in the ruck so well is they've got such a talented midfield that you could actually see it unfolding. They knew they had ruck dominance. They were trying to hit it forward, and then you get the Dacoses, the Adams, the Pendleburys, their ability and their confidence to be able to run onto the ball really played a significant part in that last quarter.
And sure, they're away from home, but they're still out on the ground, and they've got enough supporters here that they've signed footballs, and they're going around just like they would at a home game to distribute the footballs.
All the Collingwood supporters at the northern end here at Adelaide Oval as they're making their way, majority of the team down there, just to say thank you.
Well, I don't think they get tired of these sort of games either. I think they love it, and you could see the joy that was out there. Craig McRae, the coach, was out talking. Port Adelaide gathered in a huddle before leaving the ground, and I'm sure what was going on in their camp will be, hey, we didn't lose anything tonight.
Yep.
We know we're in the contest. We just got to improve a couple of things to win.
Well, I absolutely agree, Cross. I think the message from Ken Hinkley will be exactly that I reckon they'll feel like they lost the game rather than Collingwood winning it, based on the missed opportunities in front of goal that they absolutely butchered at critical times.
The English cricket team attitude?
Just bowl short, stick everyone on the boundary. Ryan Burton's missed 2 absolute sitters. Todd Marshall, a sitter. Jeremy Finlayson kicked 1 in the last, but he's missed 2 sitters in that last quarter. Willem Drew missed 2 in the second. Francis Evans missed 1 in the second and kicked 2 out in the full.
Dersmer, I reckon, missed 1 as well.
Yeah.
Is he the one that hit?
That was the post. That was the post, inside post. So there was another easy miss.
Yeah, so no doubt Port Adelaide, as I said, they'll be ruining their missed opportunities, but I dare say they'll be taking a lot of confidence out of this game in the fact that they didn't see anything tonight that would suggest that if they get another opportunity come September, that they couldn't beat.
Yep.
The Pies fans have come out of the woodwork on the text line, 0437 774 774. One listener says Ken Hinkley should have listened to Braden Maynard, obviously declaring themselves as the best team in the competition.
We're on top for a reason.
Stuart has texted in and says, go Magpies, sucked in Port Parasites, give Willie Rioli 3 weeks for hitting Murphy. I do think, the precedent we saw was Josh Rochelle, only last week. I think it's going to be multiple weeks.
Well, I think he's certainly going to get cited. He'll get 1 or 2 if not. And the other one will be Jeremy Howe too, that tackle on Sam Pepper. They'll look at that.
Hasn't Rioli already been
He missed one earlier.
With an elbow. It was, from memory, in a marking contest off the ball.
Yep.
A couple of the texts. One listener says, flat dry deck at the MCG, the Power could not beat the Pies. And another listener says the spoil from Sidebottom won us the game. Do remember to leave your name and where you're texting in from. We're with you for the next 30 minutes. Let's head down into the rooms and absorb what has been another remarkable heist by the Collingwood Football Club. Josh Money's downstairs.
Yeah, they're just entering the room right now, Aaron, and can imagine they're in pretty big spirits. The league's post-game specialists have won another thriller here at Adelaide Oval. It was billed as perhaps the game of the year and certainly lived up to the billing, and the celebrations, you'd imagine, are going to follow suit as well. So lots of hugs, lots of attention as well for Taylor Adams in what was a big game for the milestone man in his 200th. So let's take you to the song.
They're getting Nathan Murphy in there as well, Josh.
Yes, he's getting around there, taking their time.
50 games.
I went the early crow there.
Bit of a shadow when it comes to 200.
Apologies to the Murphy family.
The anticipation's killing me, Josh.
Now they're doing a head count. This is the longest time I've ever seen that song say.
Final scoreline here, Collingwood 13-7-85. Here's the song.
Got there eventually. We'll be back shortly with a plan.
So 2-point win in the end, 13-7-85 to Port Adelaide's 12-11-83. Collingwood 16-2 and 2 games clear at the top of the ladder. So the minor premiership not quite locked away, but considering the result we've seen Port Adelaide's draw to come compared to Collingwood's, who do not have to leave Victoria from here on out, you'd think they're marching towards top spot in a home qualifying final, Collingwood.
Well, you'd think they would possibly take care of Carlton next week. Then they play Hawthorn, and then they've got some massive games to finish off. So you'd say, well, good and bad, but it's the hardened part of the game, isn't it, too? Everyone talks about we want to continue to play, and why wouldn't you? So they go to take on Geelong at the MCG. They then Docklands Brisbane.
They've got to go to the Docklands.
I know, hey? Dimon didn't like going there. But
right.
Don't have to worry about that anymore. And then they finish off against Essendon at the MCG.
The downside for Port Adelaide, Brisbane win earlier today against Geelong. There's now a game difference, and there's a possibility that they won't be hosting a qualifying final, which seemed locked away a couple of weeks ago. But they have a very tough fortnight coming their way. The showdown next week is anyone's ball game, as we know, and then they've got to play Geelong at Cardinia Park before a pretty reasonable run home after that. But the next 2 weeks will essentially decide if they're a top 2 team.
Yeah, well, they still got the opposition, GWS, they play at home. They again go to Perth and play Freo. Never pick Freo again. And then they come Richmond last round. So they've still got some quality footy ahead of them.
It's good to have Aaron conceding that that's a pretty good run to finish with Richmond.
Oh, as remarkable as the 36-point comeback was today, it was against Hawthorn. So I do think Port Adelaide will be heavy favourites in that one.
Still got to do it, though. That's the thing. So
now, I'll throw another stat at you. Last quarters this season, Port Adelaide have allowed their opponents to convert at 61%. Today, 6-3 to 3-2 in favour of Collingwood. Again, 6-3, so they had 9 shots successfully at goal and they converted over 60%. Is that a concern to worry about, that maybe they get fatigued and they allow easy shots?
Well, I guess there's the offensive work and then the defence work as well too, isn't it? Just looking at the clearances, and we spoke about Taylor Adams being quiet, Jordan De Goey being quiet. Taylor Adams finished with 9 clearances. Nick Dacos has finished with 9. Jordan De Goey with a 7. And then you've got to work your way down. Dan Houston had 8. And then Jason Horn, Francis, Zach Butters. And probably as the game went on, I thought Zach Butters probably fell out of the game, didn't he, too?
Well, he started on fire, didn't he?
Yeah. And Ollie Wines, he's had another quiet. Travis Boak just looked off and a bit slow, like in terms of where the game was. So
that's the versatility of the Collingwood Football Club right now. So you talk about, Jack Crisp can play midfield, defence. Nick Dacos floated around the ground as well. Taylor Adams and Tom Mitchell have both played a half-forward midfield role, and they've shared that across the campaign. So whenever something was going wrong in terms of the matchups, Collingwood could easily have an answer because most of their players can play every position.
Well, they left Nick Dacos on the bench, didn't they, in the third quarter for 10 or 12 minutes before he went on. And I was just having a look at the northern end again. Look at the Collingwood supporters. It's almost
like a party on the hill, isn't it?
An English Premier League team celebrate.
Yeah, there's like the English Premier League, they're surrounded by security officials who are trying to escort the
irony
the
of it. We are Port Adelaide in the background on the big sign.
But I guess when you go back to Collingwood and the versatility and the depth that they've got of talent, particularly through the midfield. That's why I reckon even as an opposition, when you go into an opposition meeting at a club, when you're trying to dissect on what you're going to do and come up with a plan on how you beat them, that's why there'd be so many questions or headaches or scratching of the head. Do you tag a Nick Dacos? Because if you go to him and you shut him out of it, there's another 6 or 7 that stand up. But then if you don't, he's going to come up and get 35 to 40 touches. They're a really difficult side to match up on.
On that tag, was the change of Willem Drew off Nick Dacos in the final term one of the reasons that Port Adelaide unravelled?
Look, I don't think so. What I'd obviously witnessed in that last quarter, I think where they did get hurt was, I think, in the ruck and bringing Lycett off. Now I can understand when you've got a guy like William sitting on the bench that can move and kick the ball well off half back and give you some run and penetration off half back, then you want to try to inject him in the game at some stage. And it's one of those things, who do you take off? So we've seen them take off Lycett previously. I think you mentioned it then, just as the siren sounded, Jamo, that, Lycett, is he banged up? Is he hurt? Are they trying to protect him a little bit? If that's the case, then okay. But if not, then when you're coming up, as I said, against a guy like Cox or Cameron who can get their hand on the footy, and all they've got to do is try to get their hand on the ball and punch the thing forward when you've got the quality of mids at ground level that can run onto it and get confidence and work the play from the stoppage scenario, then it makes it really difficult to match up on.
I think, not to bore, but, let's go to the rooms first.
You've done the throw for me there, Jamo.
Yeah.
Let's get some reaction downstairs. Collingwood winners by 2 points. Down to you, Josh.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Jamo. Joined by Jack Crisp. Jack, what a amazing win. Are you even surprised by what this team can do, or are you so used to winning these close games now?
Thanks for having me first, guys. But obviously you can never get used to that. Like, you never know what teams are going to bring week in, week out. But to be able to keep doing what we've been doing, obviously the last couple of years, it's pretty surreal. But it doesn't happen without what we do throughout the week and what we've practiced over the last couple of years, different scenarios and stuff like that. So it's great to see when you do train those things and you put a bit of time into them throughout the week, that they come out game day and you can get the 4 points.
Is it belief? Is that the best way to summarise it? And where does it come from, and how does it continue to grow?
Yeah, definitely belief is right up there. We know we put like a mountain of work in over pre-season in terms of building our fitness and then understanding the game plan. But what we've been really good at and really diligent with, I think, throughout the week is we have a few focus areas coming out of a review game, and when we get to work, we actually, we get to work on it, we improve on it, and then obviously the next week the statistics have been showing that what we've been practicing it actually works. So it's just amazing win. Bloody hell, it was fun.
It was billed as such a big game, first versus second. Braden's comments last week and fueled the fire as well. Did it feel like a finals atmosphere out there?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we just focused on what we could internally. But yeah, top of the table clash. It ended up being bloody what everyone came to see and what everyone wanted to watch on television. So it was a great game of football, fantastic by both teams. Really hard fought, and just grateful to get the win.
I'll throw you up to the team.
Jack, we're going to ask a huge favour of you here. Can we get you and Josh up on the boundary line, because our in-room kits are not doing great at the moment in terms of our signal. So we'll come back to you in a moment. Hopefully we can get you downstairs and get a better line so the boys can have a chat. But great to hear from Jack Crisp, and one of the senior leaders of the Collingwood Football Club at the moment, and another really mature head. Surprisingly, I think the Pies are actually the oldest list at the moment.
Yeah, right.
And obviously right in the premiership window right now. And Jack Crisp is one of those who, I had the stat a couple of weeks ago, but consecutive games played. You've got it there, Crossy?
I've got the fact that it was his 200th game for Collingwood tonight. So on top of the number of games he's played 200 for Collingwood, played 18 for Brisbane before being traded in 2014, two-time best and fairest winner, including last season.
Did he miss one? Because it's like 200 straight or something too, isn't it? It's an amazing, the durability of his body.
I mean, not to be harsh at all, but when he was traded from Brisbane, he was the steak knives of that trade deal. He wasn't really the intended target for Collingwood, and has ended up being a star player for them.
Well, I reckon he's a player. Even 4 or 5 years ago, he just kept flying under the radar. And he's now getting the accolades I think he deserves in terms of his influence and impact on this Collingwood Footy Club. But he's a genuine star of the common. He's another player that, when you talk about the stars, you talk about Dacos and Pendlebury and Sidebottom, he's probably not one that's put in the conversation with, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but he's an absolute superstar.
But the depth of the list, and looking like Will Hoskin-Elliott is out with a hand for another week or two. Outside of that, there's probably one or two younger players that haven't impacted or haven't played much football, so respectfully. So it is an art form that the football club themselves have been able to achieve, to be able to keep them fit, to manage their players. I mean, the big knock on initially was, where's their ruck coming from? And at one point, I think, who was rucking. He was dropped tonight too. Like, he was in Billy Frampton. Like, he was their number one ruckman. So it's almost, Mason was out as well. So they've really had their challenge, but they continually find a way through.
Funnily enough, we can't really talk about stats without a contribution from the great man over in Melbourne, Corbin Middlemass, who is the king of them. He's immediately pulled us up and said Jack Crisp, 206 consecutive games, the third longest ever. Jim Steins, 244, and then Adam Uze with 226 ahead of him. So still about a season to go before he catches up to those boys. But, it's a remarkable run of what he's been able to put together.
It really is.
He's such a good bloke that he's actually been able to come up the race so we can continue our interview. Josh, we'll head back down to...
Yeah, Jack Crisp certainly going to win MVP tonight as far as ABC is concerned. He's even signing a few autographs in the meantime now that he's come back up here. I'll hand him the headset. Jack, where were we? Thanks so much for coming back up. I will now throw you up to the team up in the box.
Yeah, Jack, Rod Jamieson, outstanding once again, and I'm sure you're aware of it. 8 games at Adelaide Oval. It's the 5th one. You've won under 1 goal too. So we keep continually talk about that. The milestone games, Taylor Adams 200, but I thought Nathan Murphy's game, he's 50th. That's as good a game I've seen him play.
Yeah, 100% I agree. I was surprised when it was only his 50th game. I thought he'd played a lot longer than that, and he's definitely playing like he has been around a very long time. And good thing for us, he's only, 23, turned 24, so he's got a lot of footy to play for us, and he's really, made his stamp in the back line for us.
If I can indulge, I played at Glenelg Football Club. Craig McRae come from there. He's done a lot on his own playing, but coaching. The way he has come in as a coach, you guys have embraced him unbelievably, and how is he?
He's fantastic. He's just got a way to build relationships where you can have those tough conversations if they need to be had, but then you can obviously have that friendly conversation because he's really caring and an honest person, very trustworthy. And I think what he's been able to build at the football club in terms of culture and environment, having a real family orientation around it, it really helps bring everyone else into the football club as well, and everyone's so thankful for what he's been able to do. But in terms of the footy side, you can't do what he's done without good people around you as well. We've got Brendan Bolton, Hayden Skipper, Scott Selwood and Lepo, other senior coaches that are really doing a great job as well.
And Jack, congratulations on the win tonight. Congratulations on your game. I guess when you talk about Collingwood, the immediate sort of names that come to mind are the 2 Dacos brothers. You've got Pendlebury, De Goey, Sidebottom. Can you give us a bit of an insight into one player who I personally think is a little bit unheralded is Taylor Adams, obviously the milestone game tonight. He's been a terrific contributor for Collingwood, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been fantastic over 10 years now, and I think a few of the boys said some very lovely words that were very true about him in the lead-up to the game. He just works his bum off. Doesn't matter if it's inside or outside, if he's got to do some running or rehab, whatever it is. He's very diligent with what he does, the ultimate professional, and he's a great leader as well. So not only does he take blokes under his wing to try and help educate and improve the team, as well as himself. So he puts a lot of time and effort into everybody at the football club.
Jack Crisp is with us on Grandstand AFL after Collingwood's 2-point win over Port Adelaide. Jack, it's Aaron Bryans here. Just staying on Taylor Adams, obviously the milestone game tonight. There was a moment in the middle of the game where Jamie Elliott literally stopped at the top of the goal square to hand it to Taylor so he could kick his first goal of the night. Can you take us into that camaraderie, the mateship? Like, it's so unselfish to literally stop when you could waltz in and give it to Taylor in that moment.
Yeah, I remember I was running with Pendles down to celebrate, and we just both said, how bloody good is that? Like, under the pressure of the game, it was quite intense up and back, whatever it was, and then just have that time to think about it and stop, and Taylor's up behind me and give him a go on his 200. So that's unbelievable. No doubt it's testimony to the relationships we have at the football club, and it's just great to see, I think.
So 5 games to go. You feel like this unstoppable force that can win from, absolutely any position. But what's left to improve? Where do you think the club can still grow heading into finals?
There's always different areas. Like, we've been strong and contested ball early in the year, and then we faded away a bit. There's probably a bit of ground ball stuff in our forward 50 where teams would outnumber us back in our forward line and work the ball out too easy. So there's always different factors, but we'll just see what comes out of the review, and we'll get to work next week.
Jack, Neil Cross here. Just one question. There was a milestone for you tonight as well. This is your 200th game for Collingwood. How much does that mean to you? You went through Brisbane, you got down to Melbourne again and played for Collingwood. And how much does it mean to you to get that 200 up for Collingwood?
Yeah, kind of snuck up on me until today, so someone mentioned it to me, to be honest with you. But Just, yeah, it's still surreal. Like, obviously, I'm from a small country town, so just playing for one of the biggest clubs in AFL and being able to do that for 9 years now is pretty unbelievable. It's something obviously I'll cherish forever. But yeah, being able to notch up 200 games at Collingwood is pretty special, and I'll definitely be keeping that with me for the rest of my life.
Your small country town must have been cold, because you seem to be going pretty well in the cold tonight, standing out there like you are for us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, well done, and all the best next week. Big game, Carlton, at the MCG.
He's raced down the rooms, Jamo. To be fair, he'd worked pretty hard for us. He'd already made his way back up the race.
I'll put a pay slip in for him.
Great to have Jack Crisp on. Collingwood 2-point winners over the Port Adelaide Football Club. The one thing I was going to ask him, the situation around Tom Mitchell. Is the sub last week, sub this week. A Brownlow medalist. Obviously, he's in the latter part of his career, sitting at 30 years of age, but almost like on the outer in the way that his role has been. And last week it was purely a managed situation. That was the wording of why he was the sub. But now he's, been removed from the contest in the dying stages, or at least, before the final term. It's almost sending a message, isn't it, I guess, that Tom Mitchell's the first man out.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And Jack touched on it. It's the conversations that the coaches will be having. They'll be talking about multiple scenarios and outcomes and, what if and that. And he would be aware. I mean, it's almost like the Tom Jonas scenario and Ken Hinkley not talking about what's he going to do. You got to look forward to next year. We haven't had that conversation yet. He's captain, but he's been dropped for a second time this year, and Port are going like they are. So I think where you are in your footy career, you know what role you play, and I think what Craig McRae would be saying is you are the role player in these circumstances to a certain part of the game, subject to where that game is at that point. We need to inject someone else, so you might be one of the players. And he would be fully aware of what that role is, and potentially. So, and that's what you want in a team. Everyone, it's almost like Sam Kerr the other night, like if you hear the responses from the team, you saw how upset she was when the Australian national anthem was being playing, but it was her response at the time when she was going to miss out, the ease in which that gave the other players around. So if he's going to jump up and then go, oh no, I'm better than that, I should be playing, well then it's going to cause some angst internally, and that's not what they're about. So, and that's from an outsider looking in. So that would be my thoughts on how they would approach it.
And I think also too, if you looked at Collingwood's midfield and listed them, he's not in your top echelon of midfielders at Collingwood with his ability to impact the game. So he's a player who, he as you said, he plays an important role for Collingwood. He does find the footy. He's one of those accumulators of the ball. But when you've got someone like a Markov sitting on the bench who has, electrifying speed in games like these are, he's probably one of those that ultimately pays the price for a Markov coming into the game who does have the leg speed.
And he's a Brownlow medalist.
Yeah.
He's banged up. He plays a role that, he's... So it's not as if you get dropped or whatever. You've just got to go back, take your medicine, find a way to get better or improve your form or do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's his next step is out of the side, though.
No.
Based on that.
But he's more a role player now than he is a senior leader in the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just mention Braden Maynard? Really important night for Braden Maynard for reasons outside football, but connected to football. His grandfather was Graham Campbell, who died last year. It would have been his 87th birthday today. So the entire Maynard clan and the Campbell clan is in Adelaide and have been at this match. He's got a connection to Adelaide, of course. His father, Peter Maynard, played with Melbourne, but he also played two premierships with Glenelg in the 80s. And Graham Campbell, of course, coached the Glenelg Footy Club. He coached the West Perth Footy Club to a grand final, and a premiership, I should say. And he was also a player and a coach at the Fitzroy Footy Club. So he's a third generation within that family, the third generation of very good footballers. But as I said, a really emotional night too for Braden Maynard and for the Maynard family.
And I played with Max Peter Maynard, his dad, at Glenelg for a couple of years too, and he played in a couple, and he was a star. Come from Shepparton, and probably if you look back over all the recruits that went to Glenelg, he'd almost be one of the best that's actually been there, and he wrapped 200 and something games. But you can see Braden Yappy. I know where he gets it from.
He bloody plays with some intensity as well. The last couple of weeks, some tackles that he's laid, and they're all front on, they're all fair, but they're vicious.
Yeah. But then again, you look over here, and he and Sam Pepper go head to head. You just go, how good's that? I remember, was it a couple of years ago where he was tagging Buddy Franklin? He had him up with the MCG. He sort of had him back over the fence, and he just loves the contest. And you love those players in your team.
A couple of texts to run through, 0437 774 774. Our Michael from Wyndonvale says, I'm so happy with the Collingwood boys' composure in these tight games. I've never seen anything like it. One listener isn't happy with our criticism of the last 5 games for Collingwood being all in Victoria. They say, like all other Victorian teams, if you forget about Gather Round, Collingwood play 5 of their 11 away games interstate, just like the other 9 Victorian teams do. So it's rubbish when people say Collingwood don't travel. And in response to that, I'd say talk to West Coast, talk to Fremantle, talk to the Crows, talk to anyone in Queensland. The last 5 games in Victoria is a gift of a run home for the Collingwood Football Club. Not that they needed it, but there is definitely an imbalance there across the card. And that's just part of being a national competition, that having 10 teams in Victoria means that, more than likely than not, you get to play in your home state. And that's nothing against Collingwood, but it is unbalanced, and I think you have to acknowledge that. Another listener also says, hi team, I don't like the chances of Jack Ginnivan getting a game in their best 22 this year. And again, this goes back to what we talked about in the pre-game. They have an incredible amount of depth, Collingwood, to the point where Jack Ginnivan is not getting a look in right now. And a year ago, he was the hottest thing in football. And all of a sudden, they've got this plethora of talent up forward.
But the game gives you perspective, and you get ahead of it, it'll give you a whack and bring it back down. And that's okay. That's where Jack's sort of at the moment too. And I think he's doing a lot of work, and he's had some big days in his early stage of his career, but he's only a young kid. Billy Frampton's been good. He's been at Port Adelaide, he's been at Adelaide, and he's been over there, and he was doing the ruck work, and he's missed out. He's been omitted this week, So Jack to come back in, Will Hoskin Elliott, he will come back in at some particular point.
Ash Johnson had 3 goals last week and got dropped. Yeah, pretty stiff.
Yeah, and I think he's enormous talent.
They've got Finlay McRae, who was picked 19 in the 2020 draft, so nearly a first rounder, had 38 touches in the VFL on the weekend, but doesn't get a look in. So
it's true credit to the way they've actually handled and their list and managed and how they've actually got through, let alone win the tight ones that they have, and they just stay together and they play in a manner and it looks different. I'm not saying like there was a hard edge. There's always a hard edge about them, but there's a hard, I don't know if you want to be an arrogant, and most clubs don't want to be perceived as being arrogant, but Bucks, there was a hard edge around it, and it just seems to have lightened off. And you look at Richmond and other clubs, they come to the middle of the ground, they're just about to start the game, and they're telling jokes. And it just seems like Jack comes out of the room. That's what they're doing now, which they may not have done in the past. There's certainly no Johnny Bairstow the way he handled a media conference.
A couple of quick ones before we get the votes, as we're running out of time. Now that we've seen Port Adelaide and Collingwood head-to-head after the round 2 thrashing, and you look at the potential of where these two clubs are going, obviously Collingwood, they feel like they're minor premiers now. Port Adelaide are fighting for a top 2 spot. When we get into September, Jamo, where do you rank these two teams? Is Collingwood your premiership favourite by a solid step?
I think they are now, for sure.
And Port Adelaide, how far do you think they go?
I'm still...
That top 4 is really tricky.
Yeah.
All of them have a case.
Well, I think... Brisbane, if they finish second and get a home final, you think that it's going to be favourable to them, and then Port Adelaide have to travel, or even if Port Adelaide drop a few more, or depending on where you don't know if Melbourne will probably get that high. So I think it's either going to be, it's certainly Collingwood top. It's going to be Brisbane and Port Adelaide. I think are going to finish second. I don't think Melbourne get to second. And then the rest, really, when you look at 5th down to,
they're making up the numbers a little bit, aren't they? It's a tight race for those last couple of spots, but when you compare them to the 2 teams we saw tonight, there's a bit of a talent gap.
And then where they're going to play the finals as well, like a huge advantage.
Tight game, 2-point margin. It feels like one of the toughest ones to pick the votes for, and poor Josh Franco has scribbled about 3 or 4 different names out before he's decided. What did you land on?
Well, I didn't get a lot of help from Jamo, but...
I was answering questions.
Yeah, I know you were. It's tough, and there were a lot of good players for both sides. We talked about the 2-point margin. I've actually gone with Sidebottom. I thought Sidebottom's game was good. He had 26 disposals, 20 kicks, 6 handballs. He had 5 clearances, 4 contested possessions. So I thought his game was outstanding tonight. I've given 2 votes to Taylor Adams, the milestone game.
Had a massive second half.
Massive second half. 25 touches. He ended up with 11 contested possessions, 9 clearances and 5 tackles. So I thought his game was outstanding as well. And there could be, 3 or 4 others, 5 others that sort of fit that category. But I've actually also given one vote to, I thought Powell Pepper's game was superb. He ended up with 17 disposals as that sort of small pressure forward type role at a disposal efficiency of 71%. He had 7 contested possessions, a couple of clearances and kicked 2 goals. So I thought his work, both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively, was outstanding as well.
So 3 to side bottom, 2 to Adams, 1 to Powell Pepper.
Yep.
That's exactly what I would have picked too.
Brilliant.
There you go. Just in sync, you two.
Yep.
Thanks for coming along.
Pleasure.
Right.
Really enjoyed it.
Great to have Rod Jamis and Josh Franco in the box. We'll see you next week as well for the showdown. That's going to be a
big game.
Crossy, fun calling as always. Thanks to Josh Money downstairs, his tireless efforts to wrench Jack Crisp out of the Collingwood rooms. Thanks to Paul Brokenshaw and Adam Jones back in the studio. Tomorrow there's still 3 games to come in terms of round 19. The Giants and the Suns from 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You've got Melbourne and Adelaide from 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, and St Kilda and North Melbourne from 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Everything kicks off with Sunday AFL with Corbin Middlemass at midday. Coming up next, though, if you're listening on Sport Digital, you are headed to, day 4 of the Ashes that unfortunately hasn't begun due to rain. Everybody else, you're headed back to regular programming. Collingwood winners by 2 points over Port Adelaide, 13-7-85 to 12-11-83. Enjoy your Saturday night.